All right, thanks for waking up with us on this Tuesday on The Fan. Hanging out with you, KB and Andy, Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney. We have Corbin in yet again with us today. A busy, busy show as always. It's a Tuesday. You know, Rick Carlisle joins us here on The Fan. KB, a good morning to you. Super Bowl week. We have a little Andrew Wiggins chatter. We have the Pacers tonight. IU Butler, a busy Tuesday here on The Fan. Good morning.
Easily. Good morning. Good morning to Corbin as well on the ones and twos. Mark Dykton will be back tomorrow, and thank you to everybody tuning in here on this Tuesday morning. By far the busiest sports week locally of the week. Like you said, Pacers-Rockets in action. Got two chances to see the Pacers at home before the All-Star break tonight and Thursday. I think could be some good news for the Steph Curry watchers on Thursday. I'll explain more here in a bit. And then Indiana, Ohio State on Peacock. Probably a night that you regret subscribing to Peacock if you're an IU fan. And then at 8:30 tonight, Butler at number 1 UConn. It is purely house money for the Bulldogs. Tonight, did you happen to see Joe Lunardi's latest on where he's got the Butler faithful?
I did not, but I was going to bring up Field of 68. Had your wish. They had Indiana State and Purdue potentially playing in the second round, the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. That's what I thought you cared about.
Not a wish, just a thought here. No, spread out the state talent.
They granted your wish. You brought it up.
It gives me all the chills.
Where did
here.
Joey Brackets have them?
Joey Brackets
I have it up,
them
but I don't want to look.
Team 65.
Okay.
So they are not comfortably in, but they would be, one spot away from not even being in Dayton, if you want to look at the play-in format for where he's got Butler after that win at Creighton.
Well, good for them. It's a big one tonight.
On Friday, yeah. And again, if they get this one, that obviously is vital and just further bolstering what I think is already a pretty strong resume from a win standpoint. So, again, the Pacers, IU, Butler, all in action. Nothing for Purdue this week. Indiana State tomorrow. And we've got a loaded show for you. Rick Carlisle, as always, Tuesday mornings at 8 with him. Bob Kravitz, looking forward to checking up with Bob. A variety of topics we'll throw his way. And then Cato June at 9:30. You know, Andy, we were discussing a few weeks ago. Super Bowl week, always fun to get caught up with former Colts Super Bowl winners. You know, Cato June is on Shane Steichen's staff. I think a majority of our audience knows that. He just got back from the Senior Bowl, where he coached the linebackers down there for one of the teams. He's an assistant linebackers coach for the Colts, has been that for a couple of years now. So looking forward to catching up with Cato here coming up. He'll join us in the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah, whenever you get to Super Bowl week, you get all the anniversary. You know, every single day it's like, you know, in the Colts, it's the 17th. What was it yesterday? The 17th anniversary of the Super Bowl. Seemingly every day you get one
17 years.
It does seem like a long time. What was Kevin Bowen doing 17 years ago?
I was
Corbin was 7 years old.
Yeah, I was a sophomore in high school. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah. How
you
about
still
yourself?
playing golf? What is he, 17 years ago? I'm 39, so I was 22. I was just out of college.
You were probably
living the life.
You know, your seventh Busch Light when the rain started to fall, and Prince got out there for halftime.
If I was lucky, there's no doubt. So, yeah, interested. You know, Rick Carlisle. I mean, there are a few things. Obviously, 5 games here before the All-Star break, and I kind of mentioned this yesterday, Kevin, and I don't mind expounding on it today. I am. You know, we'll see what Halliburton does. And I have a couple Tyrese Halliburton questions for you. How much should he play? You know, going to be in that 3-point contest. How much will he play in the All-Star game? Okay, so how much does he need to play in these 5 games? But, you know, we didn't get, because the Pacers were ahead by, you know, they extended that lead in Charlotte on Sunday night. We didn't get that next data point of, okay, if the game got close, would Tyrese Halliburton, you know, been back in the game? Would they have checked him back in the game? And we never got the, hey, he's played 20, 21 minutes. Were you guys going to stretch this out if you had to 27, 28 minutes? We talked about that yesterday. And so I kind of expect, you know, the Houston game the first time around was a close game, 2-possession game down the stretch. I'm interested tonight what clarity we get. You know, we'll try to ask coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll see how much he tells us about the minute restriction, if we're going to be able to see him more than 20, 22 minutes, how close we are to seeing a fully ready to go Tyrese Halliburton. And then for me, win-loss-wise, just looking at it, where they are 6th in the East, obviously right above them, Philly's dealing with the Joel Embiid injury. To me, and I said this yesterday, I'm kind of hey, go 4-1 if you can here. I mean, you have the Knicks, but, Golden State will be on a back-to-back. They're not a very good team. I understand the players that they have. Kuminga's playing much better, Steph Curry. But Houston, Charlotte, Toronto, all of those games, go win those games and get to 4-1, and then we'll check in the final 26 games of the season. But that's how I feel today. Andrew Wiggins, his name has been brought up with the Pacers. All those things we can get to.
Pacers favored by 7 tonight. No Fred VanVleet for the Rockets. You think back on that first meeting, Andy. I know we joke about this player and oftentimes some antics on the floor, but Dylan Brooks getting tossed from that game was a huge reason why I think the Pacers, I would say comfortably kind of pulled away there in that first matchup in Houston. Halliburton was outstanding. You would think that Brooks would have that sort of assignment tonight. Again, it's a very, very young Rockets team, and now you take Fred VanVleet out of the lineup. They scored, I think it was 90 the other night, so obviously a very small number for them. And I mentioned it earlier, if you are one of the, and I almost forgot, I really did forget this yesterday, Thursday night is Trayce Jackson-Davis's lone game inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Oh, goodness.
This season, I would assume.
We need to reach out, try to get TJD on.
I would assume you've got a pretty heavy fan base or a contingent that would want to see that. He's been a little, I don't think he played last night, actually, for Golden State. But for the most part, he has been getting some sort of clock for the Warriors here this season. I was looking up the Steph Curry back-to-backs.
Okay. Yeah, you said you had good news.
Yes.
For people that want to see perhaps Steph Curry later on this week.
So Steph Curry's missed just 3 games all season.
That's a Warrior, man, yeah.
So that is certainly good news just on that end. Of the 7 back-to-backs that Golden State has had, he has played on both ends of the back-to-back 6 of 7 times. So I feel like we get this narrative, Andy, of like, oh, the Stars are coming to Indy, they never play, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not really true with Steph. He's played in each of the last 3 matchups here in Indiana. One of those included a back-to-back, and then again, this season, he has played in 6 of the 7. Now, I think it's worth pointing out, they do have a game the night before, coming here to Bankers Light or to Gainbridge on Thursday, but still, if past precedent this year serves anything, there's a good chance that Steph Curry will be in the lineup for that. Have you seen this 3-point contest lineup shaping up for All-Star Weekend?
I have seen it. Yeah, no, they have not announced the dunk contest, right?
No, but Shams Charania of The Athletic did have a little nugget late last night on a possible dunk contest representative for All-Star Weekend, and this is not your Jericho Sims, Cassius Stanley, Mac McClung type of name.
I was gonna go with Mac McClung. Hey, don't down my man Mac McClung, okay?
Well,
he brought some fun to the dunk contest. What do you have for us? I have not seen this. I told KB I went to bed last night at 9:45.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll throw it your way. He's an all-star.
Okay.
Strongly considering participating in the dunk contest.
Okay.
You care to take a stab at it?
Oh, goodness. Usually all-stars don't ever participate
this would be
in the dunk
first
contest.
One since
You're throwing me for a loop.
And I forgot this guy was even an all-star. This would be the first all-star to participate in the dunk contest since DeAndre Jordan in 2017.
Donovan Mitchell.
I think DeAndre Jordan was an all-star. Donovan Mitchell is a great guess. That would have been my first guess. East Wing is the path you want to go.
Now I'm bringing up. Now I'm having to bring up the lineups. I have no idea. Brain fart. Go ahead.
Brown.
Oh, Jaylen Brown. I would not have ever thought of Jaylen Brown in the dunk contest.
Pretty good dunker when you watch him in game.
Yeah, but I just don't think of, if I think of a breakaway, a guy who is going to go like Obi Toppin. He'll go between the legs on a breakaway. Hell, he's done it this year, has he not?
Hell, I feel like he did it last week.
Going for a windmill dunk. I see Jaylen Brown. He's more of a violent dunker. Like, he'll sneaky, kind of rise up and try to just go over you.
And you know what? Good for Jaylen Brown.
Good for him.
That's obviously awesome for us if he indeed does it. But still, this has not been the trend. Like I said, the trend is, Cassius Stanleys of the world participating in recent dunk contests. We did have, you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. I remember, and this was kind of when Mitchell and I think Victor Oladipo were kind of knocking on that all-star.
Sure.
Sort of budding situation. They both participated in 2018, but again, it's been a while since we've had that. But I bring up the three-point lineup. These are the reports on names. Again, 8 participants typically in the three-point contest. Right now, Damian Lillard, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, Malik Beasley, Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey. That is
pretty good.
What is that, 6 All-Stars, 7 All-Stars?
That's pretty good. Beasley's one of the only ones who's not one. Yeah, good for him.
I did
good for those
see
guys. Let's
Adrian
go.
Wojnarowski mention, and we'll continue to update you guys throughout the next couple of weeks. Again, really, well, I guess next week is when the All-Star activities are going to ramp up. The Pacers' final game, Andy mentioned their next 5. Their final game before the All-Star break is at Toronto a week from Wednesday. So really, next Thursday is when the activities start to kind of build here in Indianapolis. You go the Rising Stars game Friday, dunk contest 3-point Saturday. Sunday, of course, is the All-Star game. Adrian Wojnarowski announced that him, Tyrese Halliburton, and Grant Hill, who I find interesting, of Team USA. Remember, Grant Hill is now the new, was it Colangelo who used to run Team USA?
It was.
Jerry
You say
Colangelo?
general manager, president. I'm not sure the title, but one of the guys running Team USA, right?
Those 3 at the Vogue in Broad Ripple coming up on Thursday night of All-Star weekend. So
you might have to make an appearance there.
I know there's been
that.
a lot of questions about, okay, where are these events? Or are they all downtown? Or is anything up in the Broad Ripple area or any other kind of outskirts of Indianapolis? There you go. That is Thursday night here. Again, Adrian Wojnarowski, Tyrese Halliburton, and Grant Hill. But that early All-Star lineup for Saturday night at Lucas Oil, that looks pretty good with that 3-point, which I do think, to be fair, the 3-point contest has kind of trended more and more stars, and the dunk contest has been more and more Mac McClungs. But it looks like this year we might have a little bit more stardom.
I guess they're going to do the LED. Have you seen this?
I did see this,
The LED floor that they're going to have there at Lucas Oil. Now, I don't know what all that's going to entail, but
so
it looks pretty awesome.
It'll be like
yeah,
the Jumbotron
all
feel
sorts
to the
of
floor.
lasers and all sorts of things will be on the floor. I'm all for it. Let's go. I'm jacked up for All-Star Weekend. Are you going to every single? I know you're credentialed. Are you going to every single event?
I don't
or gonna
know.
Try
I'm gonna
to?
have to. Yeah, I'm
How
gonna
much
have to map
all in
it
are you
out.
going to be?
I know. I'm gonna have to map it out. Yeah, certainly. I mean, this is hell.
It might be once in a lifetime.
I was
like
gonna say,
literally.
last time we had it was 1985. I was not alive.
I was 1
time,
year old. Yeah, there you
the
go.
All-Star game was here. So again, we'll continue to look ahead to Pacers and Rockets tonight at 7:00. And as Andy said, the trade deadline just a little over 48 hours away. What is the latest on that? There is a rumor of the Pacers and a particular Golden State Warrior. Do you just do the trade Thursday and then he stays in town?
You could. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm as high on this one as perhaps Pascal Siakam. By the way,
former dunk contest participant,
I
right?
I understand. TJD played Saturday, played 9 minutes for the Golden State Warriors, so he's still playing. In fact, in January, he played nearly 18 minutes a game for the Warriors. Big numbers.
I do want to make sure we get to some Colts today. Again, we aren't really recapping any basketball game per se. There's part of me that thinks the move you saw from the Colts yesterday might be the biggest defensive move they make all offseason. I know that
defensive line coach?
I know that might scare some people away, but when you look at it, certainly they've got some big in-house free agents on that side of the ball, but from outside of the building, is this it? And is this enough? I guess when you look at that side of the ball, we'll touch on that here on this Tuesday morning. Again, Rick Carlisle at 8, Bob Kravitz at 9, Cato June, Colts assistant, looking back on the Super Bowl of the Colts coming up at 9:30. We will be giving away, in addition to our normal Jiffy Lube oil change, how about a gift card to Cluster Truck? I know a lot of people big fans of Cluster Truck and their meals. We'll be giving away a gift card coming up for the pop quiz to round things out today. And we'll do that all week long here on the Wake Up Call. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Andy Sweeney. Corbin Lingenfelter with us as well. This is the Wake Up Call, 93.5 on 107.5, The Fan.
Query and Company. Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th.
All right, let's dive into it. Your morning check down here on The Fan. Reminder, Rick Carlisle will join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Bob Kravitz and Cato June going to join us at 9:30. Pacers tonight. Coverage right here on The Fan beginning at 6:30, hosting the Houston Rockets. Halliburton and Jalen Smith, KB, both questionable for this game. Everyone else good to go. You mentioned it was a 7.5 point spread. I find that to be an interesting one as well. But it's Pacers and Rockets tonight. Like I said, I'd love to see the Pacers go 4-1 in these final 5 games before the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I mentioned the opening segment. Dylan Brooks tossed in the first game.
22 minutes in that game.
Out injured midway through that first game. You get Dylan Brooks in your head, and you just assume he gets tossed from every game there. But yeah, he left.
You fooled me, and Corbin had no idea either. I just went along with it. Oh, okay.
He got ejected from the preseason game with the Pacers. Again, a lot of it is very confusing when it comes to that man, and Coach K scolded him sternly.
Yes, he did.
For that afterwards. So yeah, 7 o'clock tonight. It is a young Rockets team. Again, no Fred VanVleet. And then coming up on Thursday, that will be Steph Curry and the Warriors. Again, some good news on that front. If you look at the back-to-backs this year for Golden State, they've had 7 of them. Steph Curry has participated in both ends of the back-to-back in 6 of the 7. All right, tonight in the Hoops World Collegiately over in Columbus, it will be Jack Collinsworth and Robbie Hummel on the call for Peacock. Does Robbie Hummel do every Big Ten game?
I mean, it's a good paycheck, brother.
And he does a very nice job.
He's like, give me every Big Ten game. It's a very nice paycheck for Robbie Hummel.
Ohio State 5.5 point favorites. I would say, Andy, 2 of the biggest, maybe the biggest disappointments in the Big Ten this season would qualify as these 2 teams. Ohio State has won 1 of its past 8 games. That was a home game against Penn State. You think back on the first meeting, we didn't really discuss it because it was the same day as Colts and Texans. That was arguably IU's finest 40 minutes of the season.
Well, it was. At the time, it was a quad 1 win.
Xavier Johnson was great in that game. Malik Reneau was good. C.J. Gunn had 10 points off the bench. And boom, we're a month later, and it's like, man, none of those things you could really imagine outside of Reneau. And obviously, we'll see about Xavier Johnson. That elbow injury day-to-day was what Mike Woodson said pregame on Saturday. No updates since. So again, 7 o'clock tonight, Indiana 5.5 point underdog. Butler, a 14.5 point underdog. You think back to their first meeting, again, they're at UConn tonight. Andy, they had a halftime lead. They scored 81 in that game. That's the most UConn has given up all season long. Now, again, on the road's a different animal. We'll see about Posh Alexander if he can get back in the lineup for Butler after their big win in overtime on Friday. But again, if you look at some of the latest bracketology, it seems like
they're right there, man.
They are right there, and probably on the right side of the bubble heading into tonight. And tonight's one of those games where it will have no negative impact if you lose it. Strictly house money for Butler before they return home for 3 straight.
All right, a couple other notes. We wanted Indiana State to be inside the top 25. They came up just short now. 53 votes in the AP. They were behind St. Mary's and TCU for others receiving votes. 45 votes in the coaches poll, or as I call the SID poll. They were just behind St. Mary's. Quickly as well, Kansas on the road at Kansas State last night. Kansas State and Jerome Tang, they got the win last night, 75-70. And then I don't know if you happen to see this at all. Virginia's starting to play better basketball. They beat Miami last night, but no one cares about, that other than Miami scored 38 points last night.
You want to talk about disappointments this season?
They're right at the list.
That was like a Miami team that I know.
No doubt. They're
Isaiah
top 10.
Wong, of course, with the Pacers, but they brought back a lot.
No, they're
from
top 10
last
team.
year.
They're preseason top 10, and they've just fallen apart, and that's obviously the least amount of points they've scored in the game in the ACC. Again, 38 points. One other note: your boy Bill O'Brien, head coach of the Boston College football team. Well, that's the way it's trending. Yeah, that's the way it's trending.
So that means Ryan Day is looking for a new offensive coordinator again, right?
I would just stay at Ohio State if I were him. That's what I would do. I mean,
now, did he go to BC? He's got strong ties in that area.
I have absolutely. I mean, it's Northeast. He was right there with New England. It's a head coaching job in the ACC, although it's one of the back-end jobs in Power 5. So we'll see if that becomes official. Do you go make a couple mil a year as Ohio State's OC or a couple mil a year to go 4-8 at Boston College?
You be the OC at Ohio State.
That's kind of what I thought. But again, Bill O'Brien, once Houston Texan coach, could easily be the next head coach there at Boston College.
Will your Giants be playing in Brazil on the first Friday night of the 2024 season? You see this news item yesterday?
I saw
Eagles
the Philadelphia Eagles.
will
I
have
saw
a
it.
home game in Brazil. Sao Paulo, I believe.
I think that's it. Yeah, I thought you were saying Sal Palantonio.
Well, he'll be there. Hell yeah, he'll be
if
there.
It's an Eagles game.
He goes everywhere. He goes to the bathroom with Jalen Hurts.
The Giants usually open up with the Dallas Cowboys, and they start 0-1 on the season. 10 years in a row, it feels
Friday
like.
night football will get, so we're going to have, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday to open up the season?
Yeah, let's go. I have no problem with it. Let's go.
So
I'm already looking forward to it.
That was announced yesterday, again, by the NFL. The Eagles, obviously one of their home games. Who knows if it'll be the Giants, if they want to appease the Giant or the Brazilian fans. They probably won't have the Giants be the
That's all. The
opponent there.
Brazilians just want to see Daniel Jones in action. That's all they want to see.
Exactly. Brian Dable is exactly
Send our
who
best.
they want to see. All right, Rick Carlisle going to join us in 30 again. We're looking ahead to the trade deadline. Just one game left for the Pacers until that. It'll be tonight with the Rockets. We'll see if there's any update on Tyrese Halliburton. He is officially listed as questionable.
He is, yes.
Been the trend here over this, load management, however you want to describe it. Injury management is probably the better way to phrase it. So we'll see exactly if Rick wants to share any sort of minute restriction for Tyrese tonight. But on the other side, let's focus on a little Colts conversation. I think some Shane Steichen comments that at least I certainly agree with. I think Colts fans should as well. And we saw a move by the Colts yesterday. Will this be the biggest defensive move they make all offseason? We'll chat about that next.
The Fan.
All right, back at it, hanging out with you in the DriveHuber.com studios. KB and Andy, it is The Fan. It is the wake-up call on this Tuesday. Reminder, Rick Carlisle going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Coming up in about 30 seconds, we have a Shane Steichen clip, and also the Colts did something defensively. I was just going to bring this up, and I would hate to be the one that breaks the news if you're just waking up and you're tuning into us. Me and Corbin had a conversation. I think Corbin was bothered by this, and I'm sure many people are. Toby Keith passed away at just 62 years old.
Yeah.
I guess late last night.
Stomach cancer, is that right, Corbin?
Yeah, he's been battling it for, I think it was
Couple
23
years.
he came out and said he
Yeah.
had it. But, yeah, it's been a few years.
And I guess he performed not too long ago, Corbin said, and the thought was he might be getting a little bit better with it. And so
awful.
he passed away just 62 years old. That's so young. Oh,
Yeah,
terrible.
certainly so many iconic songs for Toby Keith. We'll continue to update you guys next week, too, from a musical standpoint. I know that's a big part of All-Star Weekend. They've got a variety of acts. It seems like the Convention Center will be kind of one of the more popular spots for that type of stuff. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that end with it.
All right, Colts stuff. Let's go. You have some nuggets on the Colts. They did something on the defensive side of the football. You teased it. Is this all they're going to do on the defensive side of the football? And we have some Shane Steichen sound as well.
So, again, two assistants not renewing their contracts. Nate Ollie on the D-line, Mike Mitchell, their assistant DB's coach, kind of more their safeties coach. We saw that news item, a couple of weeks ago. Charlie Partridge, Andy, that is the name of the new D-line coach. This will actually be his first stint in the NFL. A college coach, Wisconsin, was actually a head coach at Florida Atlantic at one point, and an assistant at Wisconsin, an assistant most recently at Pittsburgh. And it's funny, Andy, every year when Notre Dame plays Pittsburgh, I feel like as I read a couple articles during that week of hey, what's Pittsburgh good at this year? It's always they stink, but their D-line is really good.
Yeah, usually they're a team where it's okay, the lines are good, the trenches, everything else, we'll figure it out from there.
Now,
okay.
The sack numbers are extremely impressive. In 2019, they were third in sacks. 2020, first. And these are nationwide numbers. First in sacks. 2021, second in sacks. 2022, first in sacks. And it's not like Pittsburgh is hauling in the NILs and the five-star kids. I mean, hell, their best player a few years ago just transferred to USC. So I think there are some pretty attractive things on the Charlie Partridge resume that you like from a development standpoint, from a pressure standpoint that Pittsburgh was able to create there. And I say that this could be it, Andy, because, again, you have a lot of money that on paper seemingly will go to some in-house guys. And if you aren't able to make that kind of bigger move defensively personnel-wise, do you look at the Charlie Partridge news and think this is the Tony Sperano of the offseason for a group that you'd like to see more out of? Remember, they didn't do anything to their O-line last year, personnel-wise. I don't call Blake Freeland in round 4 very much substance upon that. So that's kind of the question that I have. I do like, again, there is obviously going to be a jump from the collegiate level to the NFL level, and who knows. I do like that this is not somebody that is a Gus Bradley coaching tree because, by all accounts, Pittsburgh did do some things differently than a lot of college football teams. And so does that create a little bit more open-mindedness from Gus and saying, all right, this is what he's bringing to the table, and this is how they manufactured pass rush when maybe they didn't have the five-star athletes across the board. Should we look into some of that stuff there? So, obviously, it's a group that has a lot invested into it from a draft pick standpoint and a money standpoint. Can you get more out of that group with consistent pressure? That's the big issue. You've stopped the run pretty routinely. You had a nice sack total this year, but consistent, timely pressure, to me, lacking too much.
A couple things. For me, and I want to get to, it's funny that you mentioned we're talking defensive line. I don't know, have you seen Matt Miller's latest mock draft on ESPN.com? Again, I don't know how much you care about these things. Everyone loves a mock draft. Come on a Tuesday. He has the Colts taking Jared Verse, who's the defensive lineman for Florida State. I just bring it up given that we're talking about defensive linemen, and it was kind of on my show notes here. I guess I feel like defensively there will be someone new who will be a part of the rotation. Someone brought in. Do you not feel that way? Do you think they'll just bring everybody back? I kind of feel like somebody will get offered something that Chris Ballard will look at and say, we're not going to be able to match that. And I don't know who that's going to be.
I mean, the only real one on the D-line that I think would qualify would be Grover Stewart.
I guess I mean defense as a whole. I think defensive
with Julian
line.
Blackmon and Kenny Moore.
I think defensive line. They'll bring in someone in the draft.
Yeah,
sure.
I think Julian Blackmon is probably your biggest question of the top guys. Again, Michael Pittman Jr., Grover Stewart, Kenny Moore, Julian Blackmon. Blackman's got the injuries. He's missed 17 games in 4 years. You can't ignore that by any means. And if there's a position that has proven 1 year stop gaps, certainly in the Ballard era, safety has provided that. Obviously, you miss Julian Blackmon a ton in the season finale. It goes without saying. If you're Julian Blackmon's agent and Chris Ballard wants to, barter with you and try to get it cheaper, you say, hey, let's sit down and watch that season finale film. You want to watch C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins again? Because that would be
a little film watching.
That would be the leverage that you would have. But again, Ballard, whether it was Rodney McLeod just a couple of years ago, whether you want to go back to Mike Mitchell, ironically enough, his playing days, Mike Adams, if you want to go way back, even to the Grigson era. Again, safety, you seem to be able to find kind of some 1 year stop gaps. Again, with Charlie Partridge, some development at Pittsburgh clearly and getting them to be a consistent sacking defensive line. If you do want to go back about a decade, he did coach J.J. Watt at Wisconsin. I don't think J.J. Watt walked in there and it was, here's the 5-star, can't miss prospect.
They've had defensive linemen, I think a couple years ago, that won ACC Player of the Year. I mean, they have pros that are on that defensive line. I wonder what the Shane Steichen, when you don't bring somebody back, you probably have someone in mind. I wonder if this was the first guy he had in mind, and I wonder...
Because there's no overlap.
Yeah, well, I wonder where they cross paths, because you never know where coaches, one guy knows another guy, knows a brother, knows an uncle, or they coached together on some staff, 15 years ago. There's always something. I just wonder where they got this name.
I was trying to think this, and Corbin, if you don't mind Googling this, Google where Carter Bradley played. Now, Carter Bradley is the son of Gus Bradley. I thought it was it South Alabama?
South Alabama. Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
For some reason, I had
that's a good pull by
you. Are they
you.
the same colors as Florida Atlantic?
I think they probably are.
For some reason, I thought for a split second when I saw the move, because I'm always curious on this, Andy. This is the nerd in me. Last week we had Ebony Armstrong on the All-Star Committee, director of events. I'm like, okay, how did you get this job? I'm always fascinated by how these people get into these positions.
LinkedIn.
And exactly. And the teamwork online.
A good resume.
And then, where the overlap is. And I brought up Carter Bradley, Gus's son. We just saw him in the Senior Bowl. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Charlie Partridge was the head coach at FAU. Did he recruit Carter Bradley? Is that, am I grasping at straws here? Clearly I am, because it was South Alabama and not Florida Atlantic. But I would just say this. One thing I would, ask of, Gus Bradley now is, be open-minded to Charlie Partridge. And Gus strikes me as a dude that would be that. But remember, the linebackers coach in Richard Smith, the DBs coach in Ron Milas, those are Gus dudes.
Those are his guys,
Those have been with him throughout all these prior stops. The new fresh blood is Charlie Partridge. Now, again, he's never coached at the NFL, but the college resume is strong. Is there an open-mindedness to listening to that for some consistent pressure? So, again, that really probably the biggest Colts news item we've had here in about a month. That news, Charlie Partridge said his goodbyes to the Pitt family and Pat Narduzzi yesterday on Twitter.
It's so difficult to say
emotional
goodbye
day in Pittsburgh Nation.
to Pat Narduzzi and the half-empty stadium that
He
they
hates
play in
Notre
there.
Dame, Pat Narduzzi.
What do you read up on? Is it PantherLair.com when you get ready for these Notre Dame Pittsburgh matchups?
Well,
is that what it is?
I
Panther
subscribe
Lair
to Notre Dame site, and they do the little the
crossover, know the enemy. Is that what they call
insider preview?
By the way, I didn't. it was someone with On3 who I actually didn't know. And Corbin, I did not send you this sound. I did not dub it over. But there was a minute on the internet of how Marcus Freeman is making Notre Dame cool again. And I thought, do I want to dub this over or with
Save
Andrew
that for
Wiggins?
July.
Yeah, I was thinking, or is that a June or July? Perhaps early August Sports
I don't want the
Talk
blood
Radio.
flowing too early in the morning here.
About to say.
I want to cue up the Shane Steichen clip. This was from Chris Long's podcast. Obviously, Chris Long, longtime Eagle. He is, I forget exactly what the podcast is called, Green Heights or Green something or other. But Shane Steichen, coached in Philly when Chris Long was there.
Green Light Podcast.
Green Light.
Yes.
I was thinking Green Heights for some reason. Sounds like an apartment complex.
What is Green Heights? Is that
I've got
elementary
nothing.
school you went to or something?
Absolutely. I don't know. Zionsville Eagles student section or something. Shane Steichen, though, got asked, and obviously this has been the popular topic post NFC title game. What is your thoughts on analytics? How do you incorporate that from a play calling, decision making standpoint? Certainly actions speak louder than words when it comes to that, Andy. But if I was going off of words, I think the clip you're about to hear from Shane Steichen, I could not agree with more.
Okay.
In how you should, in my opinion, utilize analytics when it comes to, again, play calling and just overall decision making within a game. Again, Shane Steichen on analytics with the Chris Long podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. There are charts and shoot. Yeah, I listen to them and stuff, but you also got to feel the game. You got to feel the game. What's the score? Shoot, is this a time to go for it on fourth down, or shoot, this is a time to kick a field goal and go up 2 scores? You got to feel the game, feel how the defense is playing, feel the offense is playing. If you're rolling in the game and you're in the second, third quarter and you feel good about the call and you're rolling and you got confidence in it and it's 4th and 4 at whatever the 44-yard line, and you feel good about it, great, go for it. You know what I mean? And obviously it's about results too, right? You go for it and you make it, it's great, and you don't. Obviously it's like, shoot, should they have punted there? Yeah, maybe. But you got to have a philosophy and what you believe in. But I also do believe in, the flow of the game and playing in the moment a little bit as the drive's getting going. You're kind of having those conversations, looking at the scoreboard. Hey, shoot, if we get in this situation, hey, we're probably a go here, but if we get in this situation and we're down in there, shoot, let's take the points. Look at the scoreboard. Shoot, we'll go up 2 scores. Let's take the points.
You are cackling.
Okay, so we are going to have to make this. Mark Dighton, you're not here.
I like what I'm hearing there from Shane Steichen.
The material, I like what I'm hearing. It might be the opposite of kind of what Dan Campbell did in the NFC Championship game. That would be one takeaway. The other takeaway would be he says shoot so many times.
I know. It feels like
Steichen sounds like an SEC coach when he's saying these things.
Sounds
and
like
he's
he had
not.
a child with Phillip Rivers, and that's
he does. We are going to
produced.
have to start cutting these out and putting a montage together of him saying shoot. So no other shows. No, JMV, listen to me. Query & Company, we're doing this in the mornings, okay? We're going to have, Mark, this is going to be added to the workload. We're going to have to do this. But in all seriousness, it's exactly what you want to hear.
Now, again,
go ahead.
Actions speak louder than words. And I would argue the 4th and 1 attempt is not necessarily following those words because, in my opinion, game flow, confidence in players, whatever else you want to describe it, Shane says that matters. I don't think he took that enough into consideration then. Gardner Minshew was having one of the worst games of his entire career up until that point. Tyler Goodson hadn't touched the ball. He was as cold as blue at that point there with 4th and 1. The one time those two tried to target each other, they didn't hook up at all on a somewhat similar route earlier in the game. So, again, I would push back a little bit on...
You think Steichen agrees with you?
Probably not.
You think he thinks he got a tad emotional with that one or had the wrong personnel or wishes he would have done it differently? Because I don't know if he does.
I think he might actually have a little regret. I just don't know if he would admit it publicly. Because I think he would view that as taking a shot at Gardner or taking a shot at Tyler Goodson.
Somebody else, right.
But I think how he describes it is exactly how coaches need to utilize that of, Andy, go back to the Bucs game. Remember when Baker Mayfield got hurt on that QB sneak against the Colts on that 1st and goal, and then he was out for the rest of their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th down plays in that goal-to-go situation? When you get to, 4th and goal there, all week long, Todd Bowles' analytics team has built their analytics chart. And, man, this is what it looks like. All right, Tampa, Colts, they do this really well. We do this very well. Here's our new chart for Week 12 in the NFL. Well, the chart was made with Baker Mayfield in mind, not Kyle Trask in mind. So as soon as Baker gets hurt, you throw that bleep out the window. Same thing on Sunday. If all of a sudden they're trotting Blaine Gabbert out there for snaps and Patrick Mahomes is in the blue tent, I don't think the chart should look
Sam Darnold
should look the same there. So that's where I would disagree with some of the. And again, I think Dan Campbell fell into the trap of analytics are gospel, and we've done it all year long. So whoa, patience. If you are able to get a double-digit lead in the 4th quarter on San Francisco, what is Kyle Shanahan's record?
Right.
Oh, it's 1-100?
At that time, it was a 3-point lead, or as a three-possession lead, right? If he kicks the field goals.
If you make the field goal there, it goes up 17. So that's where I think you can get away from it. I don't want the analytics to be gospel. they should be a tool that you utilize, and all of a sudden someone's in your ear saying, okay, Shane, this is a green situation on our chart, and then Shane takes that and says, okay, let's think about game flow, let's think about score, let's think about time, let's think about injuries. There's a lot that has to factor in to your eventual sort of decision. But again, if you're just strictly going off words, I like a lot of what Shane Steichen said right there.
Yeah, because what it does is it combines the two. Analytics has become kind of a nasty word, a no-no word.
It shouldn't be the end-all, be-all.
No, but I think, coaches don't have to just coach by their gut anymore. I happen to think a lot of the, hey, we're going for it on fourth down is met with, I would say 9 out of 10 times, don't you feel football fans, even though if they want to ignore analytics and or ignore the numbers, KB, they like when their team goes for it on fourth down. I would say the most hotly contested kind of stat that's out there with any analytics, isn't it when you're down 14 going for 2 after you score that
Tennessee
first touchdown?
Do that against Miami on Monday Night Football this year?
Yeah, I mean,
and it worked, right?
Doug Peterson did that a lot back in Philly. I mean, I kind of feel like about 3-4 years ago, he was the one that kind of really got that going. Vrabel has done that. I definitely could see Shane Steichen do that. Would not be surprised if, they were down 14 next season in a couple games and he did that. I would say that's probably the most hotly contested. I didn't feel like, since so many people are all in on going for it on fourth down and saying to hell with your field goal kicker, I didn't feel like we got as many debates this year until Dan Campbell and the 17-point lead in the NFC Championship
I don't think
game.
we got a ton of debates with Shane either.
I don't think we did.
A couple maybe fourth downs here or there.
I mean, the Cleveland game were some play calling issues. That wasn't an analytics thing.
Right. But again, I think that answer, at least for me, is what you want to hear if you're a Colts fan. I agree with you. You have to side on more aggressiveness. I think that makes sense, especially in kind of a scoring league and all of that. But still, I think there's a time and place to utilize analytics. Rick Carlisle, by the way, going to join us in 10.
Yeah, so Rick Carlisle is going to join us in 10 minutes. Let's play this sham sound just to play it. We have 3-4 minutes here. Now, I don't think, listen, he's not going to answer this question. We're not going to ask him about Andrew Wiggins. He's not going to, Rick Carlisle, much like a couple weeks ago before Pascal Siakam was traded, you remember Carlisle came on the air and said, guys, I'm not going to be able to answer the questions. And what was it? A few hours later, they traded for Siakam? Wasn't it the same day, Corbin? Were you in with us when all of that happened? Just a few hours later. So this is on Shams Charania. This is on his podcast. And now I cut this about 30 seconds, KB, so you get a little bit of context to it. They're talking Golden State, and they're talking how the Warriors, they want players back. They don't want picks back. They want players back if they're going to move Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins or anybody else, all these big contracts they have on their team. And he mentions the Pacers and the Mavs as someone interested in Andrew Wiggins.
When I'm told there's no mandate from Joe Lacob on the front office to shed salary. We know they've got this crazy high tax bill, but there's no mandate for that. I think whatever move is going to help this team win and compete is what this front office is going to look at. And that's why they've gotten player for player deals for Wiggins, where they don't have to move a draft pick to get rid of him. But the players that are coming back, do they make sense? Are they better than Wiggins? Do they make sense for this group with Steph Curry and the rest of the roster? The Mavericks and Pacers are two teams, I'm told, that are expressing interest in Wiggins to keep an eye on, but I don't think they're going to just move guys to move guys. I think the Warriors need true reasons if they're going to trade, whether it's a Wiggins, a Klay Thompson, a Chris Paul.
Yeah, and so those are the big contracts they could look to move. I understood it with Siakam, and again, Wiggins is 28. Boy, he's got, 3 years, including a player option, going to be making up over $26 million a year. We'll have more time to talk about this. I am worried where Siakam, I didn't feel like was, of course, washed at all. I'm worried about exactly what Andrew Wiggins has left. I don't mind saying it. And to me, what has been interesting is they took a big swing. We talked about that with Siakam. If they take another swing, I mean, that's good. That's going to tap them out, right? I mean, they're going to be
bats off your shoulders.
Yeah, they're going to be completely at the threshold of that luxury tax. You would imagine if they take on a big deal, and they're going to have to ship a couple guys out. On its surface, I know He's a 3-and-D guy. I know defensively he would help out. I'm just not sold on Andrew Wiggins like I was Pascal Siakam.
Again,
not at all.
On the surface, 3-and-D is very attractive to me, but when you start to get into the finances, I mean, we're talking about a $30 million player option for 2026, 2027.
Which he's going to pick up.
You don't think Andrew Wiggins wants to pick that up?
Of course he is. He'll be in his 30s then.
And remember the conversation we had with Tony East yesterday. I mean, financially, this is, even if you don't make a move like this, you're starting to juggle some things that the Pacers are not used to. I mean, luxury tax is not a phrase we've said really at all here in Indiana. So as much as 3-and-D is very attractive to me, that's probably one where I would sit that
Like
out.
if you just go to ESPN.com, he is down in
He's had a really poor year.
Just about every statistical category, he is down where he's been in his career, and that's 3-pointers, it's points, it's minutes, it's everything else.
Rick Carlisle on the other side. It is the wake-up call.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Fan.
All right, 8 o'clock hour. Appreciate you joining us. KB and Andy, it's the wake-up call on The Fan. As always, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studios. Let's jump right into it. You know, it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. You know what that means. Head coach of the Indiana Pacers, Rick Carlisle, joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, let's just jump right in. Tyrese Halliburton, the minutes restriction, we know that is out there. How is Tyrese feeling, and how close do you think we are to getting Halliburton back to his full minutes? And a good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. He's doing better. He's doing better. The game in Charlotte was good. It was encouraging. He could have gone back in if needed. Decision was made that if we could finish the game without him, it was probably best. And so it had, in that particular case, it had more to do with he had some back spasms that morning. I think that was on the injury report. The hamstrings done very well. So I think things are going in the right direction. And so, that's all positive stuff.
You guys have hovered, I think, just north of 20 minutes for the most part with him since he came back. Do you expect that number to be closer to 30 here as we near the All-Star break?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the number of minutes because it really doesn't make sense. If you think about it, it's something that could work against us strategically if the other team knew of public information like this. And so I'm just going to stay away from that. But we are moving the right direction. And, if you take what I just said a couple of moments ago, you can kind of calibrate where things probably are going to be.
Sure.
So, I think that's fair, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Final one for me, Tyrese related. You guys kind of flip-flopped the, starting him early on, not playing him in the fourth quarter. Then that Kings game, it was kind of the reverse. I know you explained this Friday night. For our audience that maybe missed that clip, and I know it gets a little bit more into the medical side of it, but why the flip from how you guys had previous handled things? What is it about this rehab with a hamstring injury that had you guys changing that a couple games in?
The New York game was tough because we played well at the beginning. We played well in the third quarter, and then his minutes were done. 5, 6, 7 minutes into the third, whatever it was, and so the first couple of games when you bring a player back competitively into this a game situation. One of the things you got to be mindful of is, him being warm. It always is best to go from warm-ups to starting. I think I mentioned this, that, over the years, there were some times with Dirk Nowitzki that we did this. There was one time Chandler Parsons was coming back from a microfracture, and, you want to keep the rest intervals relatively short because you don't want the player stiffening up. And so, whatever it is, the first couple of games, first 3 or 4, sometimes you're just dealing with early shutdowns and that's it. And after the first couple of games, it was clear that he was on a good path and that if we wanted to talk about a shift so that he could finish games, it could be done. And then, being home against Sacramento, we had the conversation with Tyrese, the medical staff, and we just decided that to make the change. We have, the practice court or the fever court, which is right near our locker room at Cambridge, where he could warm up before going into the game, essentially cutting the game from 48 minutes to 36, which, on whatever the minutes number was, you didn't have to deal with limitations on finishing. So the irony in that one is that it was just a wanky night. I mean, we all of a sudden before the game, Turner and Smith were out, and that really put us up against it with our bigs. and it just, we just didn't play a good game. And so, I suppose that's one of the reasons people were talking about it.
Rick Carlisle with us here on the Fan. He's on the Payless Liquors hotline. Tyrese Halliburton made my partner Kevin Bowen very nervous in the third quarter the other night. He had the dunk, and then he faked like he pulled the hamstring. Did you happen to see that, Coach? Because on TV they went to break, and we all sat there for 2 minutes. We were worried if he actually re-aggravated the hamstring injury. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah, not really. I saw that there was a reaction on the bench, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. Like I was looking,
scared us.
I was looking at what was going on in the game,
sure,
and stuff. So, but I did hear about it.
Be grateful you didn't see it live, then.
Yeah,
Rick Carlisle with us. I had to ask you about it. Something we discussed yesterday. How different, I don't know if difficult or different, what the exact word is, for the other players that know Halliburton is on a minute restriction, and that may grow here in the next couple games. How different is it for them? I mean, they played without him, but he's been out a full game. Now you get him for maybe 22 minutes. How difficult or different is that for the other cast there?
It just depends. You've got to talk about the plan ahead of time with your guys. It's just, the other thing about the Sacramento game was, we decided to start Mathurin and McConnell because those guys were fresh. Neither had played the previous game. I think Mathurin had missed 2 games, and it's just. Some things you game plan out, you look at, they seem to make sense. And in that case, we actually won the first quarter against Sacramento and then got beat pretty bad in the last 3. So that's one we just want to forget about. And, we had a pretty good game against Charlotte, and, we've got a couple of home games here before we go back on the road before the break. And these are obviously big ones.
Yeah, Rockets tonight, Warriors Thursday, 5 games to go until the All-Star break. Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, I continue to be beyond impressed by Aaron Nesmith. Last couple of weeks, averaging 17 and 7 for you, a couple of assists, and that doesn't even consider great shooting numbers and the responsibility that you give him on the defensive end of the floor. When did it kind of hit you that he could handle all of this? Because this is a lot that you're giving him, and yet he seems to be handling it quite well.
Yeah, he's a terrific kid. Got great family. He's from Charleston, South Carolina. Which is near where we have our place in the summertime. So, when we traded for him, it was only about a 20-minute ride to go to Porter Goud and hang out with him in the gym and spend time with him, get to know him. Last year, I went to his basketball camp. He has a free basketball camp for kids in Charleston. That's really cool. And so he's about all the right stuff. The opportunity to come here has been career changing for him, obviously. Last year, he earned the position of starting 4. This year, Christmas time, when we decided that, we needed to get bigger, we needed to get better rebounding, we needed to get more physical, him going from 4 to 3 made sense. And so he's jumped on that opportunity and done very well with it also. So very happy for him. You just can't be happy enough for people that have, a pure heart about the game and work hard and just, are just high character type guys.
Rick Carlisle joining us here, head coach of the Indiana Pacers on the Payless Liquors hotline. Pacers and Rockets tonight, 6:30. Our coverage beginning tonight on the Fan. Coach, Andrew Nembhard moves to the starting lineup. You talked about that last game. Why the move to the starting lineup, and ultimately, what's he going to bring you moving to the starting 5?
Well, defense and playmaking. We really we've got to continue to stress defense. Offensively, we've got some pretty good tools, and we know we can score. But to really just put all your eggs in a basket on the offensive end is not sustainable in the NBA. You're gonna get hit for too many 140-point games, which we have, and so since Christmas, we've really made the shift mentally, and we've restructured our practices and our preps. It's all geared toward defense first. Nembhard is probably our best on-the-ball defender in ball screens. So he can guard the point guard at the beginning of the game. We can move Tyrese around to different matchups. But we challenged Tyrese and everybody else on the team that we've all got to raise our level at that end. And so I think for the month of January, we ended up 20th in the NBA in defense, up from 30th. So that's, jumping 10 spots is good. It's a significant change. And I think if you went back to Christmas, it would probably be slightly better than that. But we've got to stay on that. A lot of what we're doing with building the club has to do with who can guard what positions and being able to guard your own position. And so, that's where we are right now. It doesn't mean we're going to start him tonight, but in more breaking news from this show that everybody's excited about, he probably will.
Look at that.
There we go.
The weekly breaking news nugget from Rick Carlisle.
Coach is coming
Thank
through,
you
and
for
we
that.
appreciate it on a
We'll
Tuesday.
have to edit in the
Yes.
sounder after we are done. Rick Carlisle with us here. Pacers Rockets coming up tonight, 7 o'clock from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Coach, trade deadline Thursday at 3. You expect any more activity from your team?
Well, I think I always say the same thing, is that trade deadline is usually a lot of talk and very, little action when it comes right down to it, kind of league-wide. So I suppose something could happen. I'm not overly convinced that it will. We like our team, and I'm very comfortable playing it out with the group that we have. And so, we'll see what happens. But I certainly expected the question, but it's kind of my answer every year, and it kind of seems to go to form.
How have you seen it's been a varied role. Lately, he's in a bit of a slump. His resume speaks for itself as an NBA shooter. But how have you seen Buddy Hield handle this contract year for him in the recent slump? Is there anything you do with him to try and get him going?
Keep pumping him up. He's you said it. He's historic. He's historically great at what he does. And guys like him, they get to that level for a reason. They put in the work. They have the belief, and it's just a matter of time before they're going to have a big game and bust out. So no concerns there. It's been up and down. I've started him the vast majority of the time. But as we've moved things around, just kind of looking at different things that are important with developing our team going forward. Anytime I've talked to him about going from starting to going to the bench, he's a total pro and keeps himself ready. And so, he's going to be undaunted. I don't know of a player that has the kind of belief in himself that he does, and he has an infectious spirit, and that's one of the reasons we love him.
Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Obviously, the game tonight against the Rockets, 5 games here before the All-Star break. What do you hope to, obviously, win, but what do you hope to accomplish in these 5 games, and what kind of threats do the Houston Rockets pose tonight?
Yeah, they're extremely dangerous team for obvious reasons. Şengün's had a great year. They got Jalen Green. They got Jabari Smith, and now Cam Whitmore's playing more off the bench. He's been dynamic in recent games. They're a little banged up. I think Fred VanVleet is out tonight, or maybe out tonight. So that's catching a bit of a break in his stead. Aaron Holiday's played better for them in recent games. Amen Thompson, is now a guy that could end up starting for VanVleet. And the Thompson brothers are such dynamic athletes, and they go so hard. I mean, these guys, you've got to really account for them. And so, Dylan Brooks is always going to stir things up. He's a great competitor. So we're going to have our hands full. But these games are super important, as we continue to move forward and try to regain momentum. It's been a little up and down in the last couple of weeks, with a heavy road schedule, some difficult teams, all that kind of stuff. So important game tonight.
Rick Carlisle with us here, Payless Liquors Hotline. Coach, we'll obviously talk to you next week as we get into All-Star Week, but I'm curious for you as the home city head coach, anything change for you All-Star wise? I don't know how you typically spend All-Star Week, but is it different for you this year in the fact that, you got 29 other teams coming to the city where you live?
Well, that's a good question. My schedule for the All-Star break is going to be a little different than people probably expect. We play in Toronto on the 14th, which is the last game before the break. My mom and dad live in Ogdensburg, New York, which is about a 2.5-hour train ride from Toronto. So my brother's coming to the game, and he'll go to the game. We'll stay overnight, and then we'll go by train to see my folks. My dad's 93 and doing really well, and my mom is 89 and doing really well. But I don't get to see them enough, so I'm going to go up there for a couple of days and then head to Charlottesville, Virginia to see Abby at UVA. It's actually sorority initiation weekend.
Oh,
and,
wow.
That's big time.
Oh, my God.
It actually happened. Yeah, she just rushed and got into her the sorority she wanted to get into.
There you go.
Big deal. Kappa Kappa Gamma. It's
Hey now.
interesting. They have an Instagram, and I found this. Donna and I, my wife, were looking at this last night. So it's UVA Kappa, and they have a thing on their story, which is talking about all of the officers for this year. It was interesting to us that the VP of I think it was called risk mitigation had a terrible sunburn. I thought that was pretty funny. So
Spring
we're
break
going to see
tanning
her.
already started, right?
We're going to see her for a couple of days, and I don't know if I would just mention it, but it happens to be UVA basketball reunion weekend. So Wake Forest plays at Virginia at noon on the 17th. So I actually won't be here for really much of any of the All-Star weekend, but I'll be watching closely from afar. I do want to mention, though, that when we were in Charlotte the other day, I watched the entire Purdue Wisconsin game, and you just thought it was really interesting watching their team. I have really great respect for Matt Painter and the job he does there, and I just thought in that environment, for those guys to play that game the way they did, and find a way to get a lead and just kind of salt the thing away, that's an impressive team, and look forward to seeing more of them. I don't get a chance to watch a whole lot of college basketball, but that was great. And also, I'm told that Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame, is going to be at our game on Thursday. So
hey now.
Oh, boy.
Hey, now.
Boy.
Yeah.
You've just set Kevin Bowen off this morning, Coach.
Uh-huh.
It's
Diehard
8-18.
Notre Dame fan, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
So there you go. And so I think he may come early, and we'll get a chance to meet him, talk to him a little bit. And I think he's going to do the rev up the car deal before the game, which is cool. We had Shane Steichen the other night, which was great.
Mhm.
So so we got plenty going on in Pacerland.
As much as I'd love to, ask about Notre Dame's recruiting class with Marcus Freeman with you, I'll focus on probably the more relevant topic for our audience. Do you know Matt Painter very well at all, Coach?
I do know him. I don't know him as well as I'd like to. I mean, but spent some time with him this summer out in Vegas for USA Basketball. He's involved with heavily with the select team. Certainly is going to have a future as on the staff of the Olympic team. I would have to guess, but he just his record and his reputation is precedes him, and Purdue's very, very, very lucky to have him. So it's going to be interesting watching them down the stretch of the season. Their guard play is excellent. Edey is he's an amazing player, and they've got some other pieces that they've put together that make them a really dynamic team. So going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Certainly. The Kappa House was rocking last night as UVA held Miami to 38 points. So I'm sure the Charlottesville faithful were loud and proud of that. Congrats to Abby. Special congrats to your parents and continued good health on that end. And, Coach, we look forward to next Tuesday with you setting up All-Star Weekend.
All right, guys. Take care.
See ya. That is Rick Carlisle right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. As always with him, a variety. I feel like the rundown is this. Tyrese Halliburton, we're expecting an uptick in the minutes restriction. He
sure
could have come back in.
Yeah.
In
sure
the Charlotte
like
game on Sunday, that was a question that we had. Andrew Nembhard in the starting lineup tonight. We'll see if that continues. Trade deadline, we can maybe play that clip coming up in a few. And just like all of us, right? Sunday afternoon, he was consuming Purdue at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's some high praise for Matt Painter.
Did he break news? Do we need to send this to IBC and everywhere else? That Marcus Freeman's going to be in the house on Thursday? I mean, you got to be there, don't you? I mean, you got to be there.
Shine the car before, maybe.
What do you
help
have
him
going
into
on
the car?
Yeah, what do you got going on Thursday?
I'll just be
Anything?
A Pacers intern for Thursday night. Happily volunteer.
Who's this guy that keeps who's this tall guy that keeps following me around?
And I'll have to go back and listen to that audio, but the Matt Painter having a role or an assistant coach gig on the Olympic staff, I think that would check out based off how they've typically handled that staff in recent Olympic cycles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we've had like a Mark Few, Jay Wright. Does that sound right? On like the last couple of iterations of Team USA?
It does. I know Boeheim was involved before he walked away.
Good call.
Was Tony Bennett? I don't know if I just have Virginia on my mind because we just talked to Coach there, but
part
I
of me
can't.
thought Brad Stevens was involved, but that might have been more when he was with the Celtics there. But that would be an awesome opportunity for Matt Painter if indeed Greg Popovich, of course, head coach for Team USA here coming up this cycle, right? Or is it Kerr?
Okay, so Steve Kerr's going to be the head coach.
Kerr, yeah.
Assistants: Eric Spoelstra, Mark Few. I'm seeing now. This is back. This would have been going into the event. What this past
that was the World Cup that
the
Halliburton
past
played
off
in.
season.
Yeah.
Sure.
So obviously that stuff will be announced here coming up this summer. Again, Halliburton already announced to the pool of candidates.
But you're right. I mean,
40-ish
Popovich,
guys.
obviously, Kerr's been on it. Jay Wright, you mentioned's been on it. I'm blanking. Who's the Celtics coach who got fired last year? Oh goodness, I'm blanking. Who's now the coach in Houston? Oh, I'm just completely blanking on
Ime
it.
Udoka?
Yeah, Ty Lue's been a part of it, so that'd be great if Matt Painter could be a part of it.
Now you might have a Matt Painter against Zach Edey at some point in that, right?
I'd be fine with
Zach
that.
Edey
I got no
makes
problem.
Team Canada here coming up this summer. As always, great stuff with Rick Carlisle. That'll be up on the podcast. It's a busy night of hoops here in the state. Let's hit a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th.
Obviously, Pacers tonight hosting the Rockets, 6:30 hour pregame coverage right here on the Fan. 7 o'clock tip-off there, and Gamebridge. Halliburton sounds like maybe an uptick in minutes, especially if they need it. He's questionable right now. Jalen Smith as well. Everyone else should be good to go. Andrew Nembhard will get the start there. Second straight game there. Should mention as well, if you give me a swoosh here. There you go. IU at Ohio State tonight. That one's 7 o'clock on Peacock. Our coverage on WIBC at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, if you go back to the first matchup between these two teams, it was arguably Indiana's best 40 minutes of the season. Xavier Johnson was really good. Malik Renew played well. Actually, C.J. Gunn gave them quality minutes off the bench. The update on Xavier Johnson Saturday before the game from Mike Woodson was day-to-day with that elbow injury. So we'll update that. But again, 7 o'clock, as Andy said, Peacock tonight, 5.5-point underdog, the Hoosiers. All right, tonight it is the number 1 team in the land. That is the challenge for the Butler Bulldogs. They are at UConn, 14.5-point underdogs. It's a house money game for Butler thanks to their win over Creighton. And that win over Creighton on Friday, that has pushed Butler, I think it's fair to say, to the right side of the bubble in a lot of the current kind of bracketologies that you look at. Joe Lunardi, for example, has Butler as team 65. So they are in the dance. They would be going to Dayton if you look at it like that, but they are nearing, honestly, getting out of Dayton territory if they continue to find some wins here in the month of February. We mentioned this a few weeks ago, Andy, an 8-game stretch starting with 7 quad 1 wins. They're 2 games into it, and they're 2 for 2.
I feel like
I thought if they got 3 or 4, they'd be a slam dunk lock.
I feel like Butler, along with it's looking like Memphis, Colorado, teams like that, perhaps Gonzaga, although I'm not sure they're going to make it this year. I kind of feel like Butler is going to be like one of the main bubble teams this year. I could be wrong because I think they're going to win.
I mean, they've got a great chance to play themselves off the bubble.
They do. I mean, well, both sides.
I mean, if you win tonight, you got to fall flat on your face not to make the tournament.
I think they're going to get some of these wins, and I think they're also going to have some losses, obviously, as well. It matters on what other teams do. Washington State, Florida out of the SEC. You know, Florida the other night had a big win at Kentucky. We'll ultimately see how big a win. It's going to be a quad 1 win, but, you know, I think Kentucky could be outside the top 25 next week. That wouldn't surprise me too much. So it's going to be interesting. I think Butler's going to be one of those teams that's going to be sitting right on the bubble, and they have a chance with all these quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities in the Big East to be better than that. They absolutely do.
Butler had a halftime lead on UConn.
I know they
at
did.
Hinkle.
It was a Friday night,
month.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, they scored 81 in that game. It's a season high that UConn has allowed this year, but Butler gave that away there in the second half. 22 on the year. The Huskies. You still surprised that they're ranked ahead of Purdue? Purdue to me has a better resume.
To me, Purdue's better. I would have Purdue number 1, but no, because I mean, come on. I mean, coaches poll, media polls. I don't trust local media members in other places, and I don't trust the coaches or SIDs.
You're going on a media rant, aren't we? The media.
I mean, I think there's.
You don't trust the local media in other places. Could they say the same about us?
They could. I just don't think. Okay, here. I don't think voters, you know, Gary Parrish is CBS. I don't know why he stopped. I don't know if someone got in his ear. He used to do the poll attack. Did you ever read those of people that of people who, you know, just had bad rankings for their top 25? Yeah, that would be it. For instance, Seth Davis had Indiana State in the top 25. But he had a tweet out, South Carolina has to be a top 25 team, and then he submitted his top 25 and didn't have South Carolina in the top 25.
No, just a common mistake. Happens to the best of us.
It doesn't matter that much. If you
so
make
Indiana
the tournament,
State was
that matters
28th
more.
officially, if you want to count the receiving votes.
So they got 53 votes in the AP. That's behind St. Mary's and TCU in the other receiving votes category. They got 45 in the coaches behind St. Mary's. So they're right there, man. They're right there.
I thought I saw one in the Indiana State beat writers mentioned that is the most receiving votes and/or votes period they've gotten since Larry Bird.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So they have been ranked since Larry, but also right here as third in receiving votes heading into their game tomorrow night. Actually, Valpo, who's had a very
they're
poor
terrible.
Season.
They're 6-17. They have Valpo, who's 6-17, and the Fighting Bobby Petrinos at Missouri State. They're 14-9.
Yeah, 6-17, 2-10 in the conference there. So busy night of hoops here locally. All right, on the other side, what did Rick Carlisle have to say about the trade deadline? Where do we stand on the trade deadline as we approach kind of the 48-hour mark ahead of that coming up Thursday afternoon? We'll do that on the other side. Bob Kravitz joins us at 9. Cato June, Colts linebacker, assistant linebackers coach, Super Bowl champ. We'll recap a little bit of those memories with him. And I see food outside. I'm very happy about this.
Out of the corner of my eye,
Corbin's eyes lit up, and my eyes lit up.
I thought I saw movement outside the studio, and then I looked at Corbin's smile, and I thought, oh, cluster truck is here. Let's go. That's exactly
cluster truck. I'm excited. We'll see you on the other side.
Hey, JMV, thinning here this year.
So Cluster Truck is in today. We'll be giving away $25 gift cards along with the pop quiz coming up at 9:30. We appreciate them delivering. Again, clustertruck.com. They also have an app. Young Corbin, I'm looking at him right now. He's got a breakfast burrito. This is what happens. Mark Dykton ordered that, didn't he? And he's not here today, so you get it. It's better than your Jimmy Dean that you had yesterday, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
So, KB, what do you have over there? You're crushing queso.
Yeah, is it too early for chips and queso?
No, it's never too early.
Right.
You kidding me? It's 8:30. That's fine.
And I've got this breakfast burrito here.
Oh, man, it looks
when
good.
When they sent us the email, they said was it called the Lazy Burrito? I forget the exact name on it. Yeah, Lazy Burrito was one of their favorites.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to dive into it again. Like you said, Cluster Truck gift card we're giving away from Fountain Square through Carmel, free delivery, and pickup available if you work in the, or if it makes more sense on that end. So cannot wait for this. Those chocolate chip cookies look unreal.
Oh, man, we got about 10 cookies here. We're going to have to dig in. So I'm sure all the shows are going to be talking about it. But check out their app. Check them out, clustertruck.com. No middleman in the delivery process. They provide a cook-to-order menu. It's made by their chefs in their kitchen. And delivered by their people, and they deliver all over the city. So check them out online, and we're going to be talking about them the next couple weeks. Cannot wait. Perfect for lunch, dinner, big groups. Now, we did have, someone in sales wanted chips and queso. I mean, it's just sitting here. Are we going to be able to not eat this? Do they know how radio people are when they get on the air?
We're going to have to
eat all the
Trisha.
Food. Yeah, we're going to have to take care of it.
I did want to cue up that Rick Carlisle trade deadline related audio. Again, we had Rick on last segment, and per usual with him, variety of topics covered. Purdue faithful, you're going to check out that podcast. All of a sudden, just out of the blue, he started talking about Matt Painter and watching Purdue and Wisconsin coming up. Or did that on Sunday, of course, from his hotel in Charlotte. But the trade deadline is Thursday at 3 o'clock. Obviously, the Pacers have already made quite the big move. Andy, when that move happened, I looked at the roster and thought, there's got to be another one. There's got to be another, especially at that 4 spot. Okay, where's Jarris Walker getting minutes? Because at that point, he was kind of getting minutes, and now he's not really.
Remember,
getting them
he
consistently.
came in before Obi Toppin in a game or two. He checked in the game. We thought, okay, this means Obi Toppin might get moved.
Here was Rick Carlisle with us a few minutes ago on the upcoming trade deadline and if he expects any more activity.
Well, I think I always say the same thing, is that trade deadline is usually a lot of talk and very, little action when it comes right down to it, kind of league-wide. So I suppose something could happen. I'm not overly convinced that it will. We like our team, and I'm very comfortable playing it out with the group that we have. And so, we'll see what happens. But I certainly expected the question, but it's kind of my answer every year, and it kind of seems to go to form.
I thought they would make another move after the Siakam trade. Where are you on that 48 hours out?
Okay, so
I guess, did you expect it at the time, and has that changed since?
It has changed a little bit, has it not? I don't feel nearly as confident that they're going to do that. I think, number one, Jarris Walker, when he had those, about a week and a half where he was playing a lot more and was like almost in the rotation, didn't we have that conversation? Like, wait a minute, is he now going to be a lot more in the rotation? That hasn't worked out, right? So I think that's fair. I don't know if the value, because he's in a slump, to Buddy Hield is there. Now, the Andrew Wiggins stuff, let me just throw a couple things your way. The Andrew Wiggins stuff, I know we played the sound last hour where Shams is saying, the Mavericks and the Pacers are two teams that are interested in Andrew Wiggins. For you and I think we both feel this way, KB, that, the Pascal Siakam, I like the move. I think the move is working out. I think the move is going to work out. And again, you haven't seen this team play at full strength. The issue that I have with Wiggins is if you go and get a guy like Andrew Wiggins, that is your last big move. Does that make sense? Is that how you feel as well? Like, this is going to be your team. It's going to be Andrew Wiggins, Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton are going to be your big money makers. And I know, Turner has a big deal, but you know what I mean. This is going to be the core now that you're working under for the next, 3 seasons?
And you're probably going to lose some fringe pieces.
Well,
Obviously, you
are.
have to trade for him. That would be some. I don't know if it'd be Buddy for him.
Well, in Golden State, they want players. I mean, they want somebody back. They don't want to do the, hey, you'll get a pick in 2029.
Jalen Smith is a sneaky name that we need to start thinking about, too, because he's got a player option for next year. He, in all likelihood, that dude is outperformed.
He's only making about $5 million. He could probably make a lot more than that elsewhere. Sure.
So I bring that up to say this, Andy. When we talk about Buddy Hield, outright free agent. Obi Toppin, restricted free agent. Jalen Smith, player option. That's pretty much a free agent. I mean, he decides whether he returns or not. Those are 3 guys. And I will ask you this, because I feel like I've gone back and forth, and I apologize for being wish-washy on it. I thought, originally, you got to make one more move right after the Siakam trade. Then I thought to myself, you know what? They're kind of in win-now mode. So now I don't think that. But then all of a sudden I've watched the last week or so unfold, and now I'm kind of back on the if Hield or Toppin or Jalen Smith, but specifically the first 2, if they're not part of your long-term core, I feel like you've got to move them. And I know that goes against a lot of the, hey, no, you made the Siakam trade for the next 2 months, you were all in. I look at it as you don't have a lot of wiggle room moving forward. You've got 1 first-round pick in the next 3 years. So when you talk about how you continue to build and add, really moving a guy like Hield for another piece, that is one of the pieces to try and move and help out your basketball team. Like, he's got to be viewed as a, kind of a trade asset, and all of a sudden I start to look at it and think, man, if this shooting slump is here to stay, which his career would say no, he's a liability when he's on the floor right now. And I'd rather have Ben Shepherd out there than him, which is an astonishing thing that I am even saying, but that's kind of where I've been with it for the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to go back to kind of one of the things that I've always been about of, especially in this market. If you're not retaining these guys long term, I look at it and say you cut ties and try to get something for them instead of letting them walk for free.
But you're giving up an option. I guess that's the thing. I mean, this team, I'm with you. This team has had injuries that I just find them to be, KB, in a tricky spot because you can't move guys for picks in any way. You're 2 win now, right? I mean, the fans, look at that queso, looks good. What is having it? The little chunks of sausage? What's in that queso?
It looks outstanding.
Oh, it's fantastic. Sorry. They're in an odd spot because you can't bring back, can you? You have to bring back players. You're in too much of a win now situation for me to ship somebody away and to start talking about picks. Plus, no offense to them, Obi Toppin is 9, 10, 11 points a game. And right now, Buddy Hield, his value is it's an expiring deal. It's not.
So you are keeping
what
them
he's
even
doing
if
right
they
now.
are walking.
I mean, probably.
So that means you're all in on these next 2 months.
I'm almost agreeing with JMV on this. I never did until recently to where I'm like, you can't mess with your offense. You have had injury issues enough to where it scares me if you get rid of key guys and then it's like, wow, we could really have used this guy or that guy. I don't know if they're in a spot right now to tell the team and the fan base, we're going to go get some second-round picks or some late first-round picks. Plus, I'm not even sure these guys would warrant that sort of feedback that you would even get something from them. But I am, and I don't know why I feel this way. I was very high on them doing the Pascal Siakam move. I understood it. He brought something. He helped them even more offensively. And I think defensively, he has shown that he can be multiple. Is he the best defender? Is he a lockdown defender? No. I would say the Andrew Wiggins stuff, to me, I don't understand. Are you with me on that? I mean, Andrew Wiggins.
Of the contract.
I mean, Andrew Wiggins is 24 this year. Move that aside. He's over 26 next year. He's over 28 in 2025. And then, like you mentioned, in 2026, he'll be 31 going on 32. He'll have a player option for more than $30 million, which why would he not pick that up as he's in his 30s? And he has had a bad year, and I just don't know. Offensively, he doesn't help them. Like Pascal Siakam, it's like, okay, he brings a mid-range game. You can kind of clear out. He's got some old school tendencies that you can add to kind of the new school stuff that they're doing. I don't feel that way with Wiggins. And I feel like this team, we talked about this, they have one more swing in them. And I don't know if I want that one more swing to be, 3.5 years of Andrew Wiggins, who to me has been kind of a non-efficient player right now.
Plus, and this might be too high a praise for him, but as I asked Rick Carlisle, we had him on a half hour ago, Aaron Nesmith is budding. Aaron Nesmith is something. He is a legit dude on both ends of the floor. Andrew Wiggins has delivered in the NBA Finals, certainly. How much is Aaron Nesmith making a year? Is it 10?
It's 11. They signed a 3-year, $33 million before the season.
$11 million a year.
It's a valuable contract.
What did you say Andrew Wiggins' contract is?
Andrew Wiggins is 24 this year. He's 26-2 next year.
Guarantee if you compare the numbers, the efficiency is much, much different. So when I look at it, because, that's where you get into. Okay, if you get Wiggins, what's the start? Is the starting lineup then Halliburton, Nesmith, Wiggins, Siakam? I guess Nesmith.
Probably.
Is he the 2?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
I kind of like where Nesmith is right now. I kind of like him at that 3 spot. Love what he's giving you offensively. Much younger.
But don't you agree that they're in an odd spot?
They are, and that's why
they could go get somebody. They could stand. You could have the opinion, go get somebody, go make a splash with an Andrew Wiggins. Let's go make a run for it. Or you could say, let's stand pat. Let's see what we have. And then there's the whole argument that you bring up of, are you going to let perhaps 2 guys walk? The thing I feel confident about the most since the beginning of the year and right now is that you're not signing Buddy Hield to a long-term contract. Do you feel different about that? Because I think you were pro, hey, Buddy Hield can shoot the basketball. Okay, there is a priority to shooting the basketball.
The economics.
Yeah, I mean, Tony East had a good, I went back and I look at Tony East's his piece on Forbes a couple days ago. They're probably, if you look at Turner, Halliburton. Now, Halliburton could make between 35 or 42, depending on the All-Pro. But if you look at Halliburton, Turner's 19.9, Nesmith, Matherin, Walker, Jackson, Shepard, Nembhard, that's going to be between 89 and 96 mil, those players. Then you have T.J. McConnell, who's got a guarantee of about 5, but he makes 9.3, so I'm not exactly sure what that will end up being. But T.J. McConnell's been a valuable piece to this team. And then, of course, Jalen Smith, if he were to be back, I tend to think he's making 5.4 mil, not to confuse anybody. I just think with a player option, he could make more elsewhere. Don't you feel that way? I mean, don't you feel like Jalen Smith could hit the market,
right,
and the Pacers would have a decision to make? So Siakam, if you sign him long term, which you hope you do, at about 43, and again, that number could be more, you're looking at about 145 mil. With all those players, and that's including Jalen Smith, who, again, I don't think will be back. Boy, if you brought in an Andrew Wiggins, there'll be an odd man out, and you're going to be hitting right at the top of that luxury tax. You really are.
The Hield debate is so fascinating to me because, again, he's in this big slump. When he's in a slump, he's such a liability because defensively he can't guard anyone. And if you put him next to Halliburton, you have one of the weakest defensive backcourts in the league. And teams we've seen, kind of feast on that here in the last couple of weeks. You would think he breaks out of it. And when he does, he can be a weapon for you. I mean, he's high on the scouting report every night because he's a guy you can't leave and he helps you out from a spacing standpoint. But if you're not bringing him back long term, that is a major question of, okay, we're all in these next 2 months. What does that get you? Because I thought a 5 or 6 seed at the start of the year. Does Siakam mean they're a 3 or 4 seed? I don't think the standings indicate that, right? Is this team getting to the 3 or 4 level?
Okay, so right now they're 5 right now.
Are they 6 right now?
They're 6 right now.
3 behind Philly or something like that?
I think that's key is Philly right now
Philly's
is a couple
major
games,
oil, of course,
with Joel Embiid. Philly has 2 more wins than Indiana, but they are, like you said, going to have the next several weeks now without Joel Embiid. So you can get to the 5. Can you get to the 4? I don't think you can the way the Knicks are playing. And the Knicks beat you once. Have they beat them twice? I'm trying to think now.
Knicks and Pacers split.
They've split.
Saturday will be the final game.
You get them here on
season.
Saturday back in New York. I find the Pacers to be in an interesting spot. It's like, I know you want to be better at defense, but you also, your calling card is offense. You still need all of the offensive weapons because the way you're going to win games is offense. And then on top of it.
But is it that? Come come playoff time?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. The defense, when it comes playoff time, how much more will we talk about that? What will the pace of the game be? And then the depth is what makes this team great. Who are the guys who are the odd men out? When do you shorten your rotation?
Well, Shepard was out of the rotation.
So Shepard's one of them.
Right?
Shepard's one of them.
Sunday they had everybody healthy,
Yeah,
right?
Shepard played 2 minutes. Toppin played 11 minutes, and Buddy Hield was benched.
Still played, but
he was coming off the bench.
Season low. Yeah.
I find the Pacers actually to be fascinating because I think
find them
fans
to be
are going
confusing.
to. Well,
I don't want confusing to mean I'm negative on them right now. I'm just I'm kind of unknown about them. I mean, look at how the Siakam trade has gone since. Lose 3, win 3. Lose 3, win 1. And the Halliburton minutes restriction has contributed. What I want come trade deadline is clarity.
Well, you're not gonna get it.
We haven't had clarity on this team in months.
They are tonight. If Halliburton can get close to 30 minutes, and Jalen Smith is out there, you could even move Jalen aside. This is as healthy as they've been in how many weeks? A month? Right. I mean, it's been at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
At this point, it's bad luck.
Just very torn on what they should do.
I'm with you, and I don't have a firm hot take on what they should do, other than if you're telling me the Pacers have one more sizable swing, I'm not in love with the Andrew Wiggins pickup because of the length of the contract. If you told me, hey, we can move expiring deals for Andrew Wiggins' expiring deal, or maybe he has just 1 year left on that deal, I could get with it. But not when you're going to have this guy till he's almost 32 years old playing the way he's playing.
Colts made a defensive move yesterday. We'll share that next. Bob Kravitz in 10, Cato June at 9:30.
Watch parties aren't what they used to be.
Welcome to today's matinee.
Ever since we got Xfinity, my little sister and her friends can easily stream.
5 minutes ago. If you miss any of that, we'll have it up shortly. Podcast Center at 1075thefan.com. Bob Kravitz going to join us top of the 9 o'clock hour in about 5-6 minutes or so. Cato June going to join us at 9:30. Tell the people, KB, the new defensive line coach for their Indianapolis Colts.
Speaking of Cato June, a new assistant alongside him, Charlie Partridge, the new D-line coach, hails from the Pittsburgh Panthers. This will be the first NFL gig for him. If you look at, and as a Notre Dame fan, it's kind of funny, whenever Pittsburgh shows up on the schedule, I'm like, well, I don't think it'll be very good, but another D-line is going to be good. They were top 3 in sacks in the entire nation from 2019 to 2020, 2021, 2022. Each of those 4 seasons, they ranked top 3 in the entire nation. First in 2020, first in 2022. This is a guy that has developed a lot of defensive linemen, not like a household, 5 stars, running to play at Pittsburgh on their D-line. So I do think that is enticing. And the question I would have, Andy, is, the dream scenario is this has a Tony Sparano effect. You didn't touch the O-line last year. All you did was bring in a first-time position coach. Sparano in the O-line had a resurgence. On paper, I don't know how much you're touching the D-line this year.
Right.
Maybe you re-sign Grover Stewart. We'll see about a draft pick.
It would just be someone on the draft.
Agent.
It's not a rebuild. They're not going to bring in 3 new guys. It would just be someone they added.
Of that. But again, is Chris Ballard falling in line with that? So Charlie Partridge, how much can he provide a jolt? Can Gus Bradley be open-minded to doing things differently with that defensive front and creating more consistent pressure? That'll be something to watch.
The other NFL nugget, did you see this yesterday? The 49ers, the practice field, they're out there in Vegas.
Right?
At UNLV, apparently it's a crappy field. Remember what happened last year at the Super Bowl?
That's Shane Steichen's alma mater.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? The NFL's got to be better at this, don't they? The practice fields, the playing surface in the Super Bowl. Come on. I mean, what are we doing? It's soggy. Apparently, they thought about just pulling out completely and going somewhere else, but they did practice, or they're set to practice there today.
The sod father, right?
The
Last
sod
year was
father.
the issue in
Remember,
Arizona.
he was like, it ain't me. It's the people that tried to put this grass down too late.
Super Bowl 58, we will have a player in the game coming up on Sunday. He will join us tomorrow on the show. Bob Kravitz next, Cato June in 30.
The Pacers are breaking all the rules.
Pascal Siakam, they got him in a trade in mid-January.
KB and Andy. Again, KB has left us. He will be back. He just walked out the door. Where'd you go? Wash your hands? Is that what you did? We had cluster truck delivered today.
Scrambling there.
So we're all just eating. Have you got into your burrito yet over there?
Oh, yeah, about halfway through.
Are you nursing it, Corbin? Have you dug into yours yet? Come on, Corbin.
yet,
All right.
not
Well,
yet.
we'll get Bob Kravitz on. You'll have some time. Reminder: we had Rick Carlisle on in the 8 o'clock hour. If you missed any of that, 1075thefan.com. Cato June will join us coming up in about 30 minutes. But right now, we're going out to the Payless Liquors outline. Bob Kravitz. BobKravitz.com if you want to follow his work. Bob, good morning. How are you today, sir?
Gentlemen, how are you?
We're fantastic. We're radio fatties today, Bob. We're eating queso.
Sounds that way.
Yeah, queso and chips, breakfast burritos, chicken sandwiches, and cookies. That's what was delivered by Cluster Truck about an hour ago. So, Bob, that's what we're up to.
Breakfast of champions.
Exactly.
Great for the metabolism in my waistline as well. Let's start here, Bob. What have you made of the last 4 games, the Pacers trying to manage Tyrese Halliburton's minutes while also trying to win games? And, boy, it's been a tricky situation, no doubt. We hope we see those minutes go up tonight if they need them, especially in the fourth quarter. But what have you made Carlisle and his staff trying to play Halliburton, but not too much, have a minutes restriction, and knowing when to play him? It seems to be quite difficult.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't understand early on during the minutes restriction why they weren't staggering the minutes so that he could play in the fourth quarter, in crunch time. Once they got home, they started doing that. So, that makes perfect sense. I'm sure there was a perfectly good medical, sports science type of reason why they weren't staggering those minutes, but I think they're doing it the right way. I think they've survived the non-Halliburton portion of the program, and I think they're getting ready to go on a bit of a win streak here before the All-Star game. So I think they're sitting pretty. You just got to get some other teams to slow down. I mean, the Knicks are playing great basketball. Cavaliers have won 15 out of 16 or something like that. So they're going to really have to go on some kind of a streak here if they want to, be in the top 6.
Houston, Golden State at home, then at New York, at Charlotte, at Toronto. Those are the 5 games before the All-Star break. And Bob Kravitz with us here, bobkravitz.com, where you find his work. One more on the Pacers from me, Bob. Trade deadline Thursday afternoon. What level of activity do you want to see, if any, from the Pacers?
I think they're going to make another move. It's a total guess on my part, but when you've got as many guys as they've got in the last year of their contract, specifically Buddy Hield, look, I don't know what you can get for Buddy. If you can get a couple of assets, then I say go ahead and do it. He's not shot well. He's not been terribly good for them here in the last, 30, 40 games. The whole season, basically. He's not been great. But if you can't get anything semi-significant for him, I say go for it. I think once you get in the playoffs, he might be a guy who'll make a difference. If he can find his shot. So if you can get something, go for it. I see these rumors about Wiggins. He would be a nice addition, even though he hasn't had a great season. But I think Hield is the most likely to be gone by the 8th.
You surprised just the slump that Buddy Hield's been on? I mean, he's a great 3-point shooter. He's just having, almost career lows. Some of his stats you have to go back to when he was a rookie in the league, Bob. It's unbelievable.
It's really strange. I mean, he's just got such a great stroke, and you wouldn't think he'd go into these types of slumps, but it's hard to understand. And God knows he's getting great looks playing with Tyrese, but he just has not been able to make his shot. It's like he plays for IU or something. If he's not making his shot, what does he do for you? Not much. Not a good defensive player. A better passer than he used to be. But if he's not stroking the 3, then I'm not sure what purpose he serves.
Well, you took us down that path. Bob Kravitz, bobkravitz.com, where you find his work. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I guess I'll start here with Indiana, Bob. And I know it's a very big picture view, but I think that's probably where the season has led us to. Should Mike Woodson, playing at IU 40 years ago, should that factor into how we evaluate the job he's done?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You evaluate him like anybody else. You don't get special dispensation for having played for Bob Knight 100 years ago.
Do you think it factors into Quinn Buckner, Scott Dolson, Pam Whitten, et cetera?
I do. Especially Buck and and Dolson, because they're old school IU guys, and they not only want this to succeed, they need this to succeed because their butts are on the line too. Dolson gave Allen that massive buyout with no offset language, which made absolutely no sense. Then he decided to give Woody a $1 million raise every year for doing what? For getting them barely into the NCAAs and then reaching, the first week and getting knocked out in the second game by Miami. I mean, what has he done? What has he done to deserve an additional $1 million? That to me is puzzling.
Bob Kravitz with us, bobkravitz.com. If you want to follow him there, he joins us here on the Fan on the Payless Liquors hotline. Bob, here's what I think of IU. They're exhausting basketball-wise to talk about. It is an exhausting beat, is it not? Because, like you mentioned, they're not good this year, but I don't know if Mike Woodson thinks he's any part of the problem. I think he thinks it's on the players, but you go through the end of the Tom Crean stuff, you go through the debacle that was Archie Miller, and then, listen, the first couple years, you mentioned it, Woody does some nice things, but let's be honest, that IU team last year fizzled out in the round of 32 with a guy like Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino and the really good, solid players they had around him. And now, they're just a comical team. They don't defend well. They can't shoot the three. They can't guard the three. They can't shoot free throws. They don't have any guards. It's just exhausting because he's not on the hot seat. He's going to be back next year, but it doesn't feel like there's any, I don't know, I can't grasp onto anything. Yeah, any hope to say next year is going to be a lot better and then list the reasons. We had Mike DeCourcy on. He's like, well, some of these guys need to come back. We know Khalil Ware and Mackenzie Mbako and those guys are going to be back in Bloomington. To me, it's an exhausting beat to follow. It really is.
Yeah, and the thing is that once again, he's got two pros. He's got two pros. How good Mbako and Ware will be at the next level, I don't know, but they're both going to be first-round draft picks, I would suspect, coming up in this next NBA draft. And, if you can't make a go of it, if you can't even be competitive, if you get run off the floor by frickin' Penn State, who was 10-11 at the time, you've got two pros. That is a serious issue, and I didn't think they would be a great team. I thought they would be a fourth or fifth place team, but they have underachieved even the most humble predictions.
Again, Bob Kravitz, he's with us. Obviously, the longtime columnist, bobkravitz.com, where you can find his latest work. Bob, when you joined us, it might have been a little over a month ago at this point. You were bullish on Purdue. You said they would win the national championship. I'm going to guess, and feel free to obviously rebuttal, that has only been strengthened by how you've seen Purdue play over the last month.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Look, there are two teams that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack, Purdue and UConn. And to me, Purdue just looks like a juggernaut. Now, I realize they looked this way last year, and until they get it done, there's always going to be that huge question mark hanging over them like a cloud. But Lance Jones to me makes such a difference in what they can do. He's a good athlete. He can guard. He's averaging, I believe, like 15 or 16 points a game in the Big Ten. In fact, Zach Edey was named Player of the Week. And Zach on Twitter said, I wasn't even the best player on my own team. and
That's
it's
humble.
true.
Humbleness. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's humility, and it's great, and it's one of the things you love about Zach Edey. But he's right. I mean, Edey's been terrific, but Lance Jones has been a stud lately. So I think that adding Lance, you look at their depth. I mean, Caleb First barely gets on the floor. That guy would be a starting player almost anywhere else in the country. So yeah, I think this is the year, guys. I really do. Now, I've said that before, but this time I mean it.
Understandable. Yeah, me too. Bob Kravitz with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. We discussed this yesterday. So if let's say Indiana State moves up and they're not like an 11 seed. Let's say if they could get up to that 8-9 game, would you want to see Purdue and Indiana State in the round of 32 down the road at Gamebridge, or do you want to see the state of Indiana basketball team spread around? Like, Indiana State go play somebody, go play Kentucky or UConn or somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, for Column's sake, I would love to see those two teams match up because, we root for the Columns. I mean, that'd be a great story. But for Purdue's sake, I wouldn't want any part of Indiana State. I watched their game against Drake. Was it Drake or Bradley? I can't remember now.
Drake on Saturday.
Yeah, Drake. I watched them. And the way they shoot the three, they're the number one three-point shooting team in the country. And that's one of those teams, if they get hot from three, Katie bar the door. I mean, that's going to be a real problem for Purdue. Now, Purdue guards the three-point line well, unlike the team down south. But that to me does not strike me as a great matchup for Purdue. I'd rather see our two teams, and maybe three if Butler can win a couple of games here. I'd like to see our in-state teams go their separate ways and advance on their own.
Again, Bob Kravitz is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Bob, shifting gears, you are probably as close to Jim Irsay as anybody from a media standpoint in this market. Any updates at all outside of what the Colts have shared?
Yeah, nothing, unfortunately. I have heard a lot. I think we've all heard a lot. We've heard hopeful rumors, and we've heard devastatingly depressing rumors. The longer this goes on without any kind of statement from the Indianapolis Colts, the more I think you need to worry that it's a worst-case scenario. They said it was a respiratory infection or something like that. It's been weeks. It's been more than a month, has it not? Again, I want to be responsible. I'm not going to say anything unless I have it absolutely cold. We're talking about a man's life here. We're not talking about trade deadlines. So up till now, I've heard lots of rumors like everybody else, but I think we just have to hope for the best and kind of leave it there.
It's a question I've gotten a lot here recently, and I think it's a question I threw your way maybe about a year ago at this point. Like when you think about where Roger Penske, Jim Irsay, and Herb Simon are at in their respective lives and what the future looks like for the respective entities that those three own, I guess specific to the Irsays, because, again, this is a question I've gotten a lot here over the last month or so. I've always been under the impression that, and again, you never know until it truly happens, but that the daughters would have no sort of inkling or desire to move and or sell the franchise. Is that of concern to you at all if that path ever, or I should say when that path ever has to go down?
Yeah, I can't imagine them ever moving. They've got such a sweet deal at Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, and this market is established now. The team has been in Indy longer than it was in Baltimore. I see no possibility of them, moving the franchise or selling or whatever. But this is going to get, if it's the worst case scenario, and I I don't feel real comfortable talking about it. But I think it'll be pretty much status quo, and the daughters will run the franchise.
Certainly hoping for the best, but to echo what Bob's saying, unfortunately, in this situation, you feel like no news is not good news.
Right, not good news, exactly.
To this topic. Bob, trade deadline Thursday, IU Purdue rematch Saturday. I assume that's what we need to be looking out for on bobkravitz.com?
Exactly. I'm going to go to the Pacers tonight, probably right about the trade deadline, what's coming down the pike here, hopefully. And just waiting on word on the owner. Since we just don't know the situation, hopefully they'll have an update, and hopefully a happy update sometime soon. But yeah, I'll be working on all those things. And I was going to say I'm going to go to IU Purdue on Saturday, and I realized I'm going on a golf trip for 3 days.
Oh,
where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you going? South Carolina or Florida? Where are you going?
I'm going to Florida, going to Tampa for
nice.
3 days. And then I'm going to come home and sit in an ice bath.
Well, I was gonna. You aren't walking on the golf course, are you, Bob?
It might be 60 degrees later this week, Bob. Can you believe it?
When you're my age and you're in my shape, just swinging the club a couple hundred times can do a lot of damage. Believe me. When you're 63, you tell me how you're feeling, buddy.
I was gonna say Prairie View might be open later this week, Bob, with how the weather's looking here. But enjoy Florida, well deserved. Hopefully you hit them well, and we look forward to some conversations coming up.
Sounds good, boys. Take care.
Bob Kravitz right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Again, trade deadline coming up Thursday at 3:00. Pacers and Warriors. Mentioned this earlier in the show for our Steph Curry related. Fan interest for Thursday night. Andy, the Warriors have had 7 back-to-backs this season. Wednesday and Thursday will be their 8th. He's played on both ends in 6 of the 7.
Yeah, he had a big game. He had a big game the other night. Do any of the nephews or any of the kids over in the Bowen family, are they wearing Steph Curry jerseys around the house, or is it strictly Pacers in the Bowen household?
Teddy Lubbers is a very big Pacer fan, but I do think there's a special place for Mr. Mahomes and Mr. Curry.
Okay, Mahomes too.
But he was decked out Sunday evening when tip happened at 6:00. He was decked out in his Matherin jersey.
Oh, Matherin,
which made his uncle very happy, and he had his Pacers hat on and everything. So
you'll like this. A buddy of mine took his. I met him up there. Took his son to the what's the Sunday game where everybody sat but the Pacers won? Like everybody sat.
Memphis.
It was a Memphis game, and so their family, they have really, really good tickets. I'll put it that way. It's one of the very close seats, if you will.
Jake Query seats.
Yeah, Jake. That's kind of what I was getting at. So they have the Jake Query seats. So they took him to the game, and his son. He was going to buy his son a jersey. His son's like 9 years old or whatever. And he's like, I remember when I was, 9, 10 years old, whatever it was, I wanted a Reggie Miller jersey, but my mom got me the Detlef jersey. So he's like, so he's like, he was a great player. Okay?
It's a great college tailgate jersey.
Absolutely. It is a great college tailgate jersey. So he's like, I'm not going to buy my son a Halliburton jersey. I'm buying him a TJ McConnell jersey.
Well, I did tweet out a few weeks ago.
So there you go.
I hope that Max Bowen plays like TJ McConnell one day. Has his mom's jump shot and plays
there
like
you go. Can I do one thing before we get to a check down?
Yes,
just
and
looking
by the way,
at
Cato June in 10 minutes, so some Super Bowl memories, and we'll talk current Colts with him as well.
Yeah, that should be fun, that conversation.
Linebackers coach.
I was just looking at it, 3 different. Now, Mike DeCourcy will have his bracket out later today, so we can use his. But just looking at it, since, Kravitz there was talking about Purdue, and he thinks this is the year, and we're talking about, hey, could they meet someone like Indiana State in the round of 32? So the field of 68 with Doster and Goodman and Fanta and those guys, they have that matchup in the Midwest, okay? So they would have potentially... it would be Indiana State, Boise State in the 8-9 game, and then obviously the winner there would play Purdue unless they get upset by a 16. We're not even going to entertain that. So you would have that matchup. Now, Lenardi has Purdue in the round of 32 would play either New Mexico or St. John's. What is juicy about New Mexico and St. John's?
Well, that's Ricky P. and Richard P., right?
That's father versus son.
Oh, man.
As an 8-9
now the
game.
NCAA is cooking with grease here.
Okay,
Come on.
So I don't think St. John's is that good, but again, that would be Rick Pitino versus Matt Painter in the round of 32.
Now,
that would be interesting.
I
Go
would
ahead.
think if Indiana State wins out, that would get them to 30-3.
Right.
I would think that would get them to the 8-9 line, right? Wasn't Florida Atlantic right around that same win total last year as an 8-9?
Yeah,
against Memphis.
I think Indiana State absolutely can get up to like an 8
I think they're
seed.
in if they lose the MoVal title game. Because if you look at the guy, take Lenardi for example right now. Like he's got them not even in, he's got them as what, a 10 or 11?
Boy, I have to find it. It's so difficult to find on here. Yeah, he has them as a 10 seed facing Butler.
Okay, so a 10 seed.
In Memphis.
If they win all of these games the rest of the way, not that there's a ton of quality wins.
Sure.
But then they would lose to like a Drake. That's not going to be a bad loss on the resume. Maybe they go from a 10 and then you get a month full of wins. Again, I know they're not great wins, but let's say they bump up to a 9 by that point. A neutral court loss to Drake drops them, maybe 1 seed line? So they're a 10 or an 11? Like, I don't think they'd fall all the way out.
I don't either. It's
30-4?
Whenever
with
you're
with 2 losses to an NCAA tournament team and Drake,
I know.
and then Alabama, Michigan State.
What you're saying is logical. I just always get worried when you start saying, hey, the Missouri Valley, go give me 2. I know. The ACC stinks. No, it's the ACC. Now, it's not good that Virginia is starting to play better in the ACC. They'll probably grab one of these seeds. I know St. John's is in a lot. I'm not sure they make it, to be quite honest. Jerry Palm has Indiana State as a 10, playing the 7-seed Butler, but just doing our Purdue exercise, would have Purdue in the second round facing off against a Texas or a St. Mary's. And for me, neither one of those teams scare me at all.
Again, a lot of college basketball and some NBA hoopage tonight before we get to Cato June in a few, before we give away a cluster truck gift card to tail the end of the show. Let's do a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th.
Corbin, I'm going to throw something at you. Can you get the Carlisle sound from earlier today? Pacers tonight, 6:30 hour coverage on the Fan. Pacers and Rockets. Jalen Smith, questionable. Halliburton, questionable. But basically, Carlisle let us know. Actually, let's not play that sound. Halliburton, is going to play tonight. Andrew Nembhard.
An uptick, right?
Yeah, an uptick we expect to see in minutes. Andrew Nembhard is looking like will get the start. Second game in a row, he'll get the start again. 6:30 hour coverage beginning tonight on the Fan.
And I say uptick because Carlisle shared with us that on Sunday, and he would have gone back in the game, could have gone back in the game if need be against Charlotte. So you would think kind of that 22 minute sort of line that he's hovered would uptick a little bit here tonight. Again, 7-point favorite. No Fred VanVleet for the Rockets. Very young Houston team coming into Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We'll see if Dylan Brooks gets ejected at all tonight. All right, other games tonight. Again, college basketball-wise, let's start at 7 o'clock. In Columbus, it's Indiana. And, boy, you want to talk about probably the 2 most disappointing teams in the Big Ten this season. How about Ohio State? And honestly, just since these teams met a month ago, Ohio State has lost 7 of 8 games. We know what Indiana has done since then. Andy, this first meeting was probably the best 40 minutes of the year for Indiana.
Oh, it was a quad 1 win for Indiana. Absolutely.
71-65 winners in Bloomington. Malik Reneau had 23. Xavier Johnson protected the basketball, had 18. CJ Gunn gave them 10 off the bench. We'll see about Xavier Johnson for tonight's day-to-day, according to Mike Woodson pregame on Saturday. Again, that is 7 o'clock on Peacock. Jack Collinsworth and Robbie Hummel. And then at 8:30 tonight, FS1, 14.5-point underdogs. The Butler Bulldogs taking on the number 1 team in all the land.
It's a big number.
It is a big number. The first matchup between these teams, Butler had a halftime lead over UConn at Hinkle. They did not win that game, though. 81 points they scored. That's the most UConn has given up this season. And as Andy just laid out, boy, that Creighton win for Butler was monumental in bolstering their resume. The thing that Butler, even if they don't nab a lot of games the rest of the way, they're going to get to mid-March on Selection Sunday. And when they do the blind resumes, if Butler's involved in that, they're going to have the great wins. And that's going to be really, really important for them. And I think getting the committee's eyes to look at them. Again, 14.5-point underdog. That is a big one for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, a couple different notes. One more college basketball. Indiana State still right outside the top 25. They got 53 votes, KB, in the Associated Press poll. They're behind St. Mary's and TCU. 45 votes in the coaches behind St. Mary's. So you see at least St. Mary's, perhaps TCU, and some other teams right there. They're right there. Now, they'll have two gimmies. I hate saying it that way. Two teams not very good with Valpo and Missouri State the next two games. We'll see. They win those games. I know they're not quality teams. Will two more wins put them in the top 25? We'll have to see next week. And then just one other note. We talked about it earlier. The Colts hiring defensive line coach from Pitt. Charlie Partridge gets the job. That became official late last night.
Speaking of Colts coaches, Cato June, certainly a lot of Super Bowl week memories, I would assume, for him. I've always joked, I think Marlon Jackson took the interception from him to get the Colts to the Super Bowl. We'll talk with Cato, assistant linebackers coach for Shane Steichen as well. He joins us next.
Take advantage of zero funding fees.
Hey, here, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studio. As you miss any of Rick Carlisle or Bob Kravitz, you can check it out on the Podcast Center, 1075thefan.com. Reminder as well, usually it's pop quiz about now. We'll do that in 15 minutes where you'll have a chance to win the oil change. We'll also give away a $25 gift card to Cluster Truck. And KB, You've crushed the queso today.
I have crushed the burrito. I've
chips
crushed
and
the queso. Am I ready to do is it too early for the chocolate chip cookie?
I was about to say, you're going to go to sleep. That's what you're going to do. I hope you have nothing to do after the show. You have anything to cover? Because you're going to bed. That's what you're doing.
I think our next guest would respect the effort that I've had here.
Well, bring in Cato June. Go ahead.
He is
Super Bowl
obviously a
champ.
Super Bowl champ currently. I guess just fresh off a trip to Mobile where he was coaching down in the Senior Bowl and a member of Shane Steichen's staff on the linebackers side of things. Cato June joins us now. Cato, good morning, man. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. You guys eating queso in the morning?
We are housing burritos, chips and queso, and chocolate chip cookies. I don't know if, in 2006 that would have been allowed, but nowadays you could respect that a little, can't you?
I can respect the effort. I can respect this. It's dangerous. That's a dangerous,
We're in radio. Yeah, this is what you do in sports talk radio, Cato.
I can go walk on the treadmill at 3 speed here for a half hour, and once that drop of sweat comes, move on for the day. Cato, as always, thank you for the time. I know Super Bowl week kind of probably conjures up a lot of memories. I kind of want to spin it maybe in a different direction, though. We oftentimes ask about the AFC title game, you guys winning that. Obviously, Reggie's told the story a million times about the Super Bowl, and if he drops that ball, Colts fans probably have him at the bottom of Eagle Creek right now. But certainly tons of memories from those two games. What do you remember about the Baltimore game? 15-6. Like, to me, if I'm a defensive guy,
that's an old school score.
That's the game that I remember the most of any of those runs.
What I remember most is that we kept them out the end zone. Didn't nobody say anything. I mean, it was a great game. We knew we had a great battle, another battle. People talking about our run defense all year that year. We had Jamal Lewis, and probably one of the toughest guys that you're going to go up against, from a running standpoint. But I just remember my. It's funny that I remember this because I shouldn't remember it. But they're going in to score. I think they're probably on the 2 or 3. McNair drops back. He's looking. We're playing our cover 2 stuff. He kind of runs like a shallow over behind me, and I see it, and I'm squeezing to it. He's throwing, he's doing a run spot out behind me, so I'm going to intercept it. And Bethea comes screaming downhill, makes a great break on the ball, and picks it off. So he picks it off, right, and runs into me and knocks me clean out. Like I probably had no business playing that game, the rest of that game, but he knocks me clean out, and I don't even remember until I saw the replay of how I fell forward on the ground. It was crazy. If you have a chance to go back, I mean, completely out of it. I got to the bench, I'm like, what are y'all cheering for? Like, like, no, we got an interception. Like, so I think that was like one of the non-memories that I had. Just kind of that back and forth game, but just being able to keep those guys out the end zone. In a game that's what was needed to get to the next round.
Well, speaking of taking interceptions away from you, I mean, let's be honest, Marlon takes away the interception from you in the AFC title game, right?
Oh, man, everybody had to jump on me in the playoffs, man. I couldn't get there quick enough.
It should be Lamy saying Cato's got it instead of Marlon's got it.
It was awesome. Because before that play, we were going down there. They're going to dump it. We're sitting back. We're playing our coverage. And Bub looks at me. We look at each other like, all right, man, here it goes. We're gonna get it now. We're gonna get it this one. And I'll be damned if when he looked down, Brady just instead he tried to look off. He does one of the best to ever do it in terms of looking off and coming back. He comes back across the middle. Bub picks it off. It's like that. I don't even know where I ran because if you see all the videos, everybody kind of runs to Bub, jumps on him, and you see everybody celebrate. I think I ran into the stands. I don't know where I went. Like I was just so excited
Oh, it's fantastic. Cato June with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. And then the Super Bowl. I know that you've probably been asked this a million times. I don't know if it was when you arrived there in Miami, if it's the lead up, if it's the game. When did it hit you where it's like chills, like, yo, I'm actually in the Super Bowl?
You know what? Me and Gary Bracker were neighbors. We bought our first houses next to each other, right next door, right? So we would go into work a lot together, just carpool. And when he came out of his house, we carpooled down to before we were going down to to catch the plane to go down to Miami. And he came across, he came to my garage and I came out. He had his suit on and I had my little suit on. It's just like, yes, there it is. We're going to Miami, going to the Super Bowl. He's decked out, I'm decked out, and that it was like one of those moments, like because too late, late round and a free agent guy that's gonna go start in the Super Bowl. I think that like at that moment it was kind of like it kind of hit us like, man, we done did some stuff now.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you remember the suit that you wore, or like the guys now have expensive bags? Did you have an expensive bag? Do you remember any of the swag you had when you guys were taking the trip there to the Super Bowl?
I tell the young guys now they be messing with Z and EJ. They think they invented swag and they invented these glasses. Coach, you didn't know about no Cartiers. That's what I've been rocking Cartiers for 20 years, man. I got Cartiers older than you. What are you talking about? So it's like, I do remember the suit. It was now, mind you, the suit game in that era was a little different.
Sure.
Bigger, longer.
Uh-huh.
We had about 52 buttons on. It was ridiculous. But I think it was like a tan with a little window pane. I think I had some lime green, like ostrich. It was wild. Like you can kind of step out of your comfort zone when you go into the events like that. So I think I still have that suit. That's one of the suits my wife.
Really?
You could probably You probably fit Booger into one of those pant legs.
Man, I could put both legs for one pant leg. Boy, it's absolutely ridiculous.
The baggy look is coming back, Cato, just a little bit, just so you know. Everything comes back around that is popular again. So.
And I'm so mad because I had all these like big Averex. I don't know if you remember those big Averex leather jackets, the Pelly. My wife's like, "You're not gonna wear those anymore." I'm like, "Yo," and I'll go to the store. I'm like, "See, I told you, I should have kept them."
I'm gonna need one of those after the meal that I've had here on this Tuesday morning. Cato June is with us, obviously Super Bowl winner, Pro Bowl linebacker, and currently a member of Shane Steichen's coaching staff. You brought up Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed. Let's start with Zaire. I think the story is incredible, really, and probably a bit reminiscent, honestly, of even you or Gary. What did you know about Zaire Franklin before you arrived here to Indianapolis, and what have you learned about him?
Well, I know he was naturally following the team. I know he was like the special teams demon and that sort of thing. But when I got here, you're doing the evals and stuff, and he hadn't, been a starter since before I got here. So just seeing, a guy that's if he's a special teams captain, he's got some stuff to him, right? Because, people that have never done it, don't understand, don't know special teams is that work. So, just seeing the mindset of that type of guy, you had a great guy in the room. So when he had the opportunity to go in and start, I think it just carried over. He's a 3-time captain at Syracuse, right? Like it's not new to him. It might be new to everybody else, but this is not new to him. This is just who he is, and so that's the beauty of watching him lead and watching him, just be a great teammate, a great person, a great player, because this is just who he's been. It's easy to go in a room and when you have guys like Zaire that you can coach because, they have the makeup of what it takes to be great.
And Cato, he's going to be pissed off. He's already not happy he didn't make the Pro Bowl. You know that, right? You saw him tweet that out. He's not happy.
As he should be. She should be unhappy because it's absolutely ridiculous. it's absolutely ridiculous to say that a guy for 2 years has almost led the league in tackles. Has done it back to back. I can see, all right, 1 year, all right, it could be a fluke. Then nobody knows his name. Maybe I don't know. Maybe because we played the 1:00 games. I don't want to get into no conspiracy things, but all I know is when I talk to him about stuff, like I'm like, look, just keep doing what you're doing. You can't control that stuff, right? But what you can control is, what you do and how you respond. And I think about a guy like, it kind of reminds me of that situation, almost like London Fletcher. I don't know if you guys remember. Like,
sure.
London went years without
right.
getting the recognition he was supposed to get. And everybody looks at him now like, man, this dude probably, could be in the Hall of Fame, and so it just happens sometimes. But at the end of the day, like, I think that you can't worry about it too much. But it's hard to say because you do think about it. Like, you do think, look, you want to be acknowledged with the best when you are one of the best. And so it is frustrating. But you come back next year. We're gonna come back next year, get another 180 tackles, about probably like 2 or 3 picks, take one to the house. Man, we'll be right now.
You'd be good to go. Cato June with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. How will that party be if Reggie Wayne gets into the Hall of Fame? How do you think that party will be?
Oh, it's gonna be epic. and all I know is I told him, I said, look, man, we got practice the next day. Now understand that. we can't pull it. It's gonna be like 06. It'd be better than our 06 birthday party. We'll have to tell you that story later. You know what I mean? But it'll be that. It'll be all of that and more.
Sunglasses abound on the practice field, certainly that next
all day. In the meeting. They're going to be in the meeting.
Yeah. Oh, wait, a lot of Gatorade trips for Coach June here on the practice field there today.
I'm a Pedialyte guy.
Pedialyte, there we go.
There you go. It
exactly.
works.
Cato, last one for me. And again, Cato June, awesome conversation here, thinking back on the Super Bowl win for the Colts, the Pro Bowl appearance for him, and obviously currently coach of assistant linebackers coach on Shane Steichen's staff. When you look at EJ Speed, I think a guy that, in a way, started on special teams, and now you see the physical gifts on display. Is there times that you look at him and think, dude, if I was blessed with your physical attributes, you know what I'd be doing with that?
No, I don't think of it like that. I just kind of make fun of him because it's like, he's 6'3", he's fast, he's 230 pounds or whatever he is. Like, it's just like one of those things, like, you look at, like, these dudes that are gift like that and they can go and make plays. You kind of, admire it. Not to say, like, I wish I had it. You know what I mean? Because I always make fun of the guy. Oh, y'all can't do what we do. And our short area, look at my short area quickness, right? And I'm down there trying to fake, knowing that if I move too fast, I might pull a hamstring or something right now. So it's just like, but you look at guys like that, like EJ, man, it's just another thing. Like, when guys get opportunities, right? And he's the same thing. He played special teams and was a playmaker on special teams. He was a demon, and he gets his opportunity. And sometimes all that takes is a guy to get his opportunity to be a full-time starter. And as you saw like maybe the last 3, I think it was the last 3 games or so, he was the leading tackler. And, just in terms of play. And he's going to always, I call him Mr. Third and Short, right? Because it doesn't matter. Like, when it's third and short, fourth down, you already know what's going to happen. He's going to make a play. He's going to TFL, knock the ball out. Like, he's just a fearless type of guy. And that's what you can appreciate and love about him, because he's fearless. He has athletic ability. He's playmaking ability, big-time playmaking ability. And now he's getting his opportunity that he didn't get in the first 4 or 5 years. So, and now you're just seeing who he is. So it'll be exciting to see those two guys out there full time the whole year next year, and just watch the amount of plays that they're gonna make. It'll be fun.
Fun trip down memory lane with one of the Colts greats. That is Cato June from that Super Bowl run back in 2006, and then obviously talking a little bit about the current state as he is a member of the defensive staff under Shane Steichen. Coach, can't thank you enough. I know a lot of fun memories for Colts fans to reminisce about. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hope the Senior Bowl treated you well, and enjoy a little bit of quiet time here in the offseason.
I appreciate it, man.
That's Cato June right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Pop quiz, cluster truck gift cards we're giving away on top of that. 317-239-1070.
Hi, this is ESPN's Mike Greenberg, and ESPN Bet is now live. The official sports book of ESPN.
We got to hammer the over.
Well, yeah, especially if we think he's going. We know he's going to play 22 minutes, right? Like, we feel comfortable with that. If the game is close at all, you got to think that number gets to 26, 27, 28. I mean, at that point, come on, 13 and a half. Let's go. Let's ride.
Bobby, the Bulldogs of Butler are in Hartford to take on the top-ranked UConn Huskies tonight. This will be the 10th time the Dogs have faced the AP's number 1 team, going 3-6. That's pretty good in their previous matchups. Who was the last AP number 1 that Butler knocked off? UConn, Indiana, Gonzaga, or Nova?
I'm going to say Nova.
That one's pretty obvious to me.
All right, question number 3. Last Sunday marked the 17th anniversary of the Colts beating the Bears in the Super Bowl 41. Who led the Colts in tackles in Super Bowl 41? Was it Cato June, Gary Brackett, Rob Morris, Antoine Bethea?
I'm going to say Antoine Bethea.
All right, number 4 here, Bobby. On this day in 1971, which American astronaut became the first person to hit a golf ball on the moon? Alan Shepard, Pete Conrad, Ken Mattingly, or Jack Nicklaus?
These are worse than hockey questions.
Well, just wait till you hear number 5.
All right, what are they again? I'm sorry.
Who hit the first golf ball on the moon? Alan Shepard, Pete Conrad, John Rahm, or Jack Nicklaus?
Okay, not Rahm and not Nicklaus. Let's go Conrad.
All right, question number 5. Dude. On this day in 1932.
Live Golf Special. Come to the moon. Hit a golf ball.
On this day in 1932, an Olympic competition in this demonstration sport took place for the first time at the Lake Placid Games. Was it speed skiing, curling, sled dog racing, or is it ski joring? Ski joring. Which one was it? I'll give you
As I said, Bobby, wait till number 5.
It wasn't ski joring, which is water skiing on snow with horses pulling the skier, is what I'm being told. It was not that one.
What was the first one?
Speed skiing.
Let's go with that.
Bobby, who's your favorite athlete of all time?
My favorite athlete of all time? Tiger Woods.
Oh, really?
God.
Okay. I love that. Same as well. Are you, I assume you're a big golf fan?
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, I love that. All right. I really wish Bobby would have done better. Granted, he's getting the gift card, so not all is lost with that one here. Number 1, number 2, those 2 were correct, and that was it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. The answer to number 3, who led the Colts in tackles in the Super Bowl against the Bears? That was Gary Brackett. Had 8 of those. Gary
Alan
Brackett.
Shepard, sled dog racing, the final 2. Bobby, stay on the line. You've got the cluster truck gift card coming your way on that one there. I thought Alan Shepard would have been the most recognizable of those astronauts.
Yeah, so during the break, you and Scotty were like, oh, yeah, it's Alan Shepard. I'm thinking someone's going to know that, and then we might get a guy who's like, I have no idea
Alan
who was
Shepard,
the first astronaut.
Purdue product, Scotty, or no? How many astronauts that have been to the moon are Purdue grads?
Oh, God, I have no idea.
Scotty
I have no
says
idea.
7. Did I hear that right?
7?
7?
I mean, if that's the right answer, that's probably the most impressive question he's answered.
I knew it was a decently high number there. On that, again, we'll continue to give away the cluster truck gift cards all week long, in addition to if anybody goes 5 for 5, the oil change on top of that. I know I'm heavily biased. I would encourage everyone to check out the best of today. I think all 3 conversations were great listens. Purdue fans, you're going to want to hear Rick Carlisle from earlier. We also tossed him a trade deadline question, but a little Matt Painter combo, spur of the moment from Matt Painter. Bob Kravitz and Cato June. Really enjoyed the Cato conversation, too, looking back on some Super Bowl memories, talking a little Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed as well. All right, food coma time for me. Anything for you?
Nothing. I'm going to bed. See you guys tomorrow.
All right, everybody have a great, great Tuesday. We will see you on Wednesday.
It was not the season we expected.